You picking up what Madonna is throwing down here this morning? It was exactly 20 years ago today. I always thought of Madonna as an 80s artist. That's what she was, right? But some staying power for Midge, who achieved her 6th number one on the U.S. albums chart on this day, November the 25th, back in 2005. The album was called Confessions on a Dance Floor, and it was her 3rd consecutive U.S. number one album. The song you just heard from it, one of the tracks that also went top 10, was called Hung Up. Interesting note about the album Confessions on a Dance Floor by Madonna. It went number one in 40, count them, 40 countries, which set a new record, beating the record previously held by, you know the answer to this, right? The Beatles. They went number one in 36 countries back in 2000. But in 2005, 40 countries is where Madonna went number one with Confessions on a Dance Floor. And we choose Hung Up to start your show on this Tuesday morning, the 25th of November, 2025. Good morning. How you doing so far? I hope the day's off to a good start for you. Not quite as sunny as yesterday, and we know what's coming. I don't know about you, but it's always a difficult time of year. We brace ourselves for this. Something I wish I didn't have to brace myself for, but you likely heard during All News Mornings today with Christine Clark and Mark Douglas. It's time to open up. I'm going to have to get some sound effects for this, I think. Jackwagon Jail. Okay, we'll have to open up that cell door and then we'll slam it shut, because I was hoping we wouldn't have to. In fact, I'd forgotten about it since last year. But here we are again. Not only was the jackwagon caught driving at excessive speeds in Brant County, but he also had one of those vehicles all tricked out with Christmas lights. Look, I am as Christmassy as the next guy. I'm as big a fan of the Christmas decorations as you are. I promise. I might even be a bigger fan. I'll put my fandom of Christmas lights and Christmas decorations up against yours. I promise that I will. And in fact, Rosie the pandemic pup and I took an extra walk late last night just so we could look at some of the lights in the neighborhood. By the way, we've got some work to do, neighborhood. You're not all there yet, but it's only a month away from Christmas now, so guess you got some time. Anyway, these vehicles, do you remember that from last year? I'd forgotten all about it. The people that decked out their cars with Christmas lights. What are we doing? This is a 100% sincere question. What are we doing? Like, the car is a conveyance, right? It is meant to get you from point A to point B. And I've told you this before. I mean, I'm a gearhead. I love cars going way back in the day. I get the appeal of beautiful machines and the things that we do to make them our own. We take very good care of them. We do this, we do that. We polish them with this kind of rag, whatever it is. But the vehicle is meant to get you places. If you want it to look nice, fill your boots. But Christmas lights on the car. And then we think this is okay to drive around on public roads. Like, what are we doing here? My goodness gracious me. Anyway, to you, sir, not only for the speeding, but also for decking your car with boughs of holly, are going directly to Jackwagon Jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. You are going directly to Jackwagon Jail. The place we put people, we lock them up, and we throw away the key. Speaking of $200, who could use $200 right about now? I'm guessing that maybe you could. I think we all could use a couple extra $100. I know it doesn't go very far. My beloved came home from the grocery store on the weekend, and she announced after emptying 3 bags that it had cost us more than $200 at the grocery store. But if I were to ask you what you think the current debt load is for Canadians, this is every one of us, all 41 plus million, combined debt load. Okay, that would include our mortgages, etc. Well, how do you feel about a number like $2.6 trillion, that's right, with a T, dollars. It's a 4.1% increase to the total consumer debt in Canada in the third quarter of this year. That includes a 4.1% increase in mortgage balances year over year and $1.89 trillion in consumer debt as we take advantage of lower interest rates to just add more debt. Now, the good news, if you will, in all of this is that mortgage delinquencies are steady. In fact, there aren't that many. I'm not surprised by that because we have that stress test here in Canada. But still, $2.6 trillion in debt, consumer debt in this country, and the average Canadian is sitting on a credit card balance of over $4,600. Do yourself a favor. I know it's not easy, but try to pay those suckers off. Don't carry those balances. Average balance, that gives me the heebie-jeebies a little bit. You got $4,600 on your credit card, and it's got 28% interest on it. Oh, boy. Anyway, $2.6 trillion in consumer debt in Canada, which is basically just looking at the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and saying, hold my beer. You thought he spent a lot of money. Holy Hannah, we're spending a bunch too. Let's go to the phones just ahead of our Farwell Show 5 this morning. Joe is with us. Good morning, Joe.
Morning, Mike. Just to further your comment there, I can't stand debt. It's like a black cloud that hangs over your head. It never goes away until you pay it off. I don't know how people can get away with that and just like live in severe debt, but I digress. But that's not why I called. Mike, the Raptors, I don't know if you're a Raptor fan or not. I know you're a big-time Leafs fan, which, I was. I mean, sort of, kind of.
Hey, listen, don't go jumping off the bandwagon, Joseph. You settle down.
All right.
Okay.
All right. But I digress. Listen, Raptors, not only are they relevant, but they're challenging for the lead in the entire conference. Sound familiar?
9 wins. This is it. So I was going to ask you this. 9 wins in a row now for the Raptors. So we just had the Blue Jays, remarkable season. I think they had that run of 11 in a row back in July or June, July. But anyway, Blue Jays go to Game 7 of the World Series. The Raptors are challenging. Hi to the puppies, too. The Raptors are challenging for the league lead. And then we've got the Toronto Maple Leafs, Joe. Like, what the HE double hockey sticks is happening here?
Hey, it could be a trifecta. There was one of those cities that had a trifecta, I don't know, 3 years ago. I can't remember which one. It might have been Boston.
It would have probably been Boston, yeah.
Yeah. But listen, all my friends, they were laughing at me like, why do you care? They're irrelevant. I'm like, boys, they're putting the pieces in place. This is going to be a deep team with no holes. And lo and behold, we got a deep team with no holes. Maybe an impact 5 coming off the bench for depth, but that's about it. That's the only thing I would leverage in the trade market, impact 5. So I'm pretty excited, Mike. I saw this coming. I saw the pieces coming together, and that BI3. What a pickup, man. Go Raptors, Mike. Go Raptors.
Thank you, Joe. Good to hear from you. I don't know what BI3 means. I'm so sorry. I'm a casual basketball fan at best. I pay a lot more attention to our KW Titans than I do NBA basketball. I know that makes me a bad person. I'm a Celtics fan from being a kid. I became a Celtics fan because I fell in love with Larry Bird. I thought Larry Bird was the greatest thing in short shorts. And there you go. Also, my brother was a Lakers fan, so as a kid, you're going to just choose the opposite so that you had the back and forth. But I loved me some Celtics. That's probably still my team deep down, which I know isn't exactly popular. But come on, the parquet flooring at the old Boston Garden. Anyway, Raptors, Blue Jays, and then the Toronto Maple Leafs. And here we are. By the way, I'm going to do it, okay? Kitchener, Waterloo, and then Cambridge. Oh, my goodness. You thought the budget meeting in Cambridge last week was a gong show? Wait till I introduce you to the budget meeting in Cambridge last night. But we'll get to that. First things first on the show every morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, the 25th of November. Number one, the days are numbered for the Toys R Us store in Kitchener. A for sale sign has gone up on the property on Fairway Road, but no closure is imminent. Just want you to be clear about that. It's not closed today, but the for sale sign has gone up at Toys R Us on Fairway Road. The company has closed several stores in recent years as it battles some financial turbulence. The store on Fairway Road in Kitchener opened way back in 1985. 40 years of Toys R Us in Kitchener, but the for sale sign is now up. Number two, speed cameras are out. $840,000 are in. That's the amount of money Waterloo Region is getting from the province's $210 million fund for road safety initiatives. Still no word, though, how much it cost us to cancel our speed camera program back on November the 14th. We had 28 speed cameras in the region. Number three on your Farwell Show 5 this morning, a Waterloo Regional Police officer has been given an award for bravery for his conduct in standing up to a violent suspect wielding a hatchet in Kitchener. Constable Matthew Cabral was presented with the Ontario Medal for Police Bravery in a ceremony on Monday afternoon. Number four, Premier Doug Ford's government set to table legislation that would require people accused of a crime and granted bail to provide a cash security deposit up front rather than paying later if they break their bail conditions. Attorney General Doug Downey says he believes the move would improve bail compliance, but the Canadian Civil Liberties Association is criticizing the measure, saying the proposal would create two tiers of justice based on wealth. Here's an idea, just me putting it out there. How about you prevent yourself from being in a situation where you have to post bail? What do you think? Wild. Is that my wackadoodle list of wackadoodle ideas I've ever had on this show? How about you just don't put yourself in a situation where you have to post bail, huh? And not just a hat rack over here, kids. And number five on your Farwell Show 5 this morning. A Cambridge realtor is trying to bring some warmth to the winter season. Karen Bartlett will be hosting her annual coat and boot drive this coming Sunday. That's November the 30th at Hespler Memorial Arena. New or gently used items are being accepted, with donations being given to the Cambridge Shelter Corporation and Hope Clothing. And that is your Farwell Show 5 for this Tuesday morning, the 25th of November.
In my opinion, that sucked.
I'm sorry. I tried my best. I'll try harder next time. If you thought that sucked, though, how about that meeting of Cambridge Council last evening? After last week's gong show of a budget meeting where staff at the meeting were not permitted to answer any questions, at least not initially, we thought we had some things figured out. The wrinkles had been smoothed over, right? Not so fast. I'll share with you what happened at Cambridge Council last night. Look, this is the gift that keeps on giving for a show like this and a radio station like ours, because we're here to bring you the information, and we want you to know you're busy. You got a life to lead. You got things to do. You got roast beef and mashed potatoes to put on the table. And while you're doing that, this is what your council in Cambridge is up to. I'll share it with you coming up on the Mike Farwell Show this morning. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Do you ever have to go and see your manager at work about feedback? Get a little bit of an update on your progress at work? Do you get those regular meetings? We used to get them a lot more, but by we, I mean here in this business, these things called air checks, where the boss would take you aside and tell you what was good and what was not so good about your performance on the show that day, that week, whatever. The time between your air checks, I suppose. Maybe when you're an old fart like me, they don't even bother anymore. They're like, that Farwell, he's so old. Not going to change that dog's spots no more. But here's the thing. when you do get feedback, if it is done constructively, at least this is what I've learned over the years, and let me know if you've heard this phrasing before. I'm going to soften it a little bit for family-friendly radio play today, but it's not going to be the nicest analogy here. So if you're eating breakfast, pause for just a moment. When you go to get feedback, you should get the poop sandwich, right? That's the softer way to put it for family-friendly radio. That means you get the bread, which is the nicer parts, and then the poop, or the other word we usually use for this kind of sandwich, in the middle. But basically, you start with some positive stuff, and then you get to the stuff in the middle, and then you end with some positive stuff. So that's going to be my approach here. I'm going to give Cambridge Council and its meeting last night the poop sandwich. So the plus at this council meeting last night, the second consecutive Monday that Cambridge City Council tried to figure out its budget and the strong mayor's presentation of it. Last week was a complete gong show where it didn't seem like anybody knew their arse from a hole in the ground, and staff wasn't able to answer questions, and councillors couldn't figure out how to get amendments brought forward. Initially, they thought their amendments were blocked. Then the amendments showed up at the 11th hour. Last night, to council's credit, they got some amendments on the floor, baby. And in fact, 6 of those amendments were approved and brought budget reductions. So kudos to Cambridge Council for figuring out their process and getting those amendments onto the floor and finding ways that councillors thought, hey, listen, this is what I'm hearing from people in my ward. Here's something we should consider to lower the overall budget impact. So that's absolutely a positive. But it took a little bit to get there. By there, I mean the point where the amendments were on the floor to be discussed and ultimately approved. It was a bit of a bumpy start to the council meeting last evening. And I couldn't help but watch this and think to myself, if last week was a gong show, what do you call this week?
I'm actually wondering if it's appropriate procedure for staff to be making suggestions that amendments be modified. My concern is that this information has been provided as part of what appears to be an official package, and although it may be in some situations a summary of the comments that occurred at the previous meeting, there's also other information that was not discussed at the previous meeting that I'm just seeing for the first time. And I'm also wondering whether or not it is appropriate for staff to be making suggestions on amendments like this. I have concern where it specifically says staff suggests that the amendment be modified so that, and then it lays out suggestions, and I find it strange that this is something coming from staff when we as the council had to provide our amendments in writing by a deadline, and now this is coming forward without discussion.
So the idea here was that we were just putting comments that were discussed with the councillor during our meetings. So if we are offering suggestions, most definitely we've noted them here. They're just suggestions for the councillor so that you're fully aware of what you're bringing forward. In case you decided to pivot or amend your amendment yourself, you had options. So this was only intended to do that. It's not intended to influence or change your opinion on things. It's just to give you options.
Councillor Devine.
Yes, thank you very much to the chair. I have a procedural concern here. We, as council, all 9 of us, take our jobs very seriously. When I sit down to a council meeting and I'm given a new document that I've never seen before, that's just wrong. We should have the time to look at this 2, 3, 4 days ahead of time. What's been done here is wrong. This should not happen, and it should never happen again. Every councillor has the right to read this stuff at their leisure, not given 5 minutes to read it at a break in a meeting. That's totally wrong and inappropriate. I'm disgusted, to be honest with you.
Councillor Mike Devine is disgusted, to be honest with you. And this is a guy that knows a thing or two about a council meeting and being a councillor. He's been on Cambridge Council for more than a decade. So Councillor Mike Devine has been through many a budget process before and knows how that process usually plays out. Heck, I can share with you, just as a volunteer on boards in the past, I would get a board packet delivered to my home. That's right. It came in the mail, physical copy, many days before the board meeting so that you could do exactly what Councillor Devine was talking about you doing. Go through the agenda, the packet, the information, and be ready when you got to the meeting. That's what it means to take one's job seriously as an elected councillor or a volunteer board member, I suppose. So to have something show up on your desk when you get to that council meeting is absolutely wrong. Councillor Devine is spot on with his criticism there. Councillor Corey Kimpson, whose voice you heard first in that piece of audio from last night's Cambridge budget meeting, was expressing that concern with, okay, we figured out our mess from last week on how to get amendments forward, but now we bring these amendments forward and there are these suggestions from staff as to how to modify the amendment. Are we getting pushed in any sort of direction here? And then, of course, you heard City Manager Rob Axiak saying it's not our intention to push you in any direction. It is merely offering some guidance, some suggestions here, should you want to modify your amendment. Last week, when we watched this process play out in Cambridge, it almost gave the impression that council didn't have the necessary experience to deal with this strong mayor's budget. The second time it's been presented that way, because that's when strong mayor powers came into effect. Second time it's been presented that way in Cambridge. And maybe that's the case. There are many new councillors in Cambridge, right? Kimpson, Roberts, Earnshaw, Hamilton, Schwery, all in their first terms. Hamilton came in a by-election the previous, but very, very new councillors. But Mike Devine, as I mentioned, more than a decade already at Cambridge Council. So I'm starting to wonder here if we've got inexperienced council or inexperienced staff trying to guide council or work with council through this budget process. And we know there's been significant turnover in senior leadership at the City of Cambridge. I don't have the answers here, but this is as messy a budget process as I have seen. The last point I'll add to this is something that you would have heard Josh Piercy, our reporter, talking about during All News Mornings today, Cambridge's decision to approve the use of reserves to help bring down the tax increase this year. Cambridge, did you learn nothing from the townships who have talked about their big problems now because they brought in sometimes 0% tax increases before? They dug into reserves already. Now they're paying the piper. Those reserves should be there for emergencies. And I understand the argument that maybe the tariff situation and job losses in the city constitutes some kind of emergency. I would be very, very cautious dipping into reserves today. Just look at what's happening in the townships. I don't think it's a recipe for long-term sustainability. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. They are the kind of numbers that really grab your attention. 1 million homes. A number we've probably heard before. But how about we add the other number to the equation? In 10 years. 1 million homes in 10 years. It definitely caught my attention. I even went home, said to my beloved last night, have you heard about Cabanovo and its plan to build 1 million homes in 10 years? She said, what, 1 million in 10? That's the plan. Can it be done? How would we do that? Well, we're going to get answers to those questions as we are joined by the co-founder and executive chairman of Cabanovo, Mark Morin, joins the show this morning. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning.
What does Cabanovo do? What kinds of homes are we talking about here?
Yeah, we're talking about a multi-dwelling homes, so apartments, condos, those kind of things. Small, mild-density housing is the way we're looking at it. Okay,
and these would be factory assembled?
Yeah, you can imagine for that, I like to say, ridiculous objective of 1 million over 10 years, you have to do things differently than traditionally, and one of them for sure is we have to build them in a factory. And just like any factory, you've got to build repetition in there to really drive the cost down and the efficiency up. So yeah, there are factory-built homes or apartment, small fourplex buildings that we would build in factories across Canada in order to achieve that million objective.
Right now, working out of the former Krause building in Waterloo.
That's right. As you can imagine, for doing a million, you need quite a few, probably about 8 or 10 very large factories. And in order to prove out our system, we have a smaller factory, 80,000 square feet roughly, in Waterloo, where we're testing out and proving out the systems. And in order to demonstrate and build our abilities to do that. And within that, we'll be able to get to easily a building a week in a smaller factory. And during this phase, we'll be, installing those buildings in the Kitchener-Waterloo region exclusively.
What does a building that you could create in a week ultimately look like? What kinds of homes are we ultimately going to have here?
Yeah, so this is a mild, what's called the missing middle. It's kind of the mild density. So we're focusing on larger apartments. So think of 3-bedroom apartments, 1,100, 1,200 square feet in that area. But really it's dictated by what is permissive in the zoning. So our first housing product is 4 units, 2 1-bedroom and 2 3-bedroom. But ultimately, there's different massings depending on how high and how wide we can build on the lots. Really, that is dictated by the cities.
Right. And that would, of course, one of the challenges, I think, Mark, that would be different from one city to the next city.
Yeah. So we've been speaking with about 30 different municipalities across Ontario, trying to understand, what do they want to do? What do they envision? And yeah, there's a mixed bag of permissibility on across the zoning. And, it's our challenge to build a series of products that we can put on the maximum number of locations across Ontario and eventually Canada.
Is there a particular municipality that you're looking at putting your first home now?
Yeah, so we have 3 projects underway right now, and we will continue to do so at a rate of 1 a month. And our first phase here for the next 12 months, we'll be dropping them in Kitchener exclusively, just so that we can build up some repetition, not only for us, but with the municipalities in dealing with us.
What led you to the very bold goal of 1 million homes in 10 years? How do you get there?
Yeah, so it's really about how you view, again, I've used this from my previous businesses of top down. What business should we get into and why now, and how do we look at it differently? And much in development is done project by project centric. And it was kind of like started out as a thought experiment. Like, how would we view the problem if we looked right across Canada and did 1 million homes? How would we solve the problem? And that quickly leads you down, looking at how you build homes, where you build them, how you source them, what's your reach right nationally. It really, really, really changes your perspective on what is housing, how do you deliver it, who is it for, all those kind of things. So it's really, it forces you to challenge and look at the entire system of providing housing and looking at it differently. So I'd say we're quite bold that the system can change, and we're, ultimately for us to be successful, a lot of things will have to happen, but we're going to start one at a time. I like to say the road to 1 million is 1, then 10, then 100. You just keep going, right?
You talk, Mark, about that previous experience that led you to this point here with Cabanovo. What was that previous experience that brought you to this point and decided that this would be the goal for you to achieve next?
Yeah, so I'm not from the construction or that industry. I'm historically a tech entrepreneur. I've done a number of different tech companies. So like I said, I view the same way I've done my other businesses. I'm approaching it and trying to look at it from the lens of into housing, and that's one angle. But historically, back in the day when I was growing up in North Bay, my dad used to but he would renovate old houses off Main Street in North Bay and put apartments in there. So that was my first taste of it. I loved the rental housing space, but I didn't like that, I like to say, crappy crappy apartments in crappy buildings as being a solution.
So you mentioned that Kitchener is kind of ground zero, if you will, when it comes to putting this to the test in market. How does it work then? You finish a building, a house at the old Krause Carpet building and then put it on a truck and get it to the location in Kitchener, for example?
Yeah, so we do everything. So we would, we have a team that buys properties, files the building permits, deals with the cities, has a local. As you can imagine, we can't do everything in the factory, like the demolition, the foundation. So there is some work on site, and that's managed by our team. And we would do that in parallel. Think of it as we're building the building in the factory. And they all meet up on, I like to say, lift day or crane day when the modules are put on a truck. And these fourplex buildings right now are 6 truckloads. If you think about 6 transport trucks, 1 module on each truck. And they would arrive every 15 minutes on site, and the crane would put the entire building up in one day. I like to say the neighbors, what they will see is the demolition of the old building, foundation work, and then one day it's lifting day, and the whole building goes up, and 2 weeks later they're moving in. So what they experience is a much more compressed construction site of maybe only 2 months worth of work on site.
So this includes then all interior finishings when that house is shipped, so to speak.
Yeah. So if you imagine in order to achieve the scale, we really have to do any work we can do in the factory is preferable than doing it on site. So we want to do as much work on site. So these modules are, I like to say, 95% done in the factory. All the siding, all the windows, the interior, the flooring, the appliances are in there. Everything is done. And when you stack them, there's some bolting that needs to happen between the units and some interconnects of plumbing and electric. So there's roughly, think of it as about an hour's work per cube on site, which can generally be done on that one day. So large percentage of the work is actually done in the factory.
Just thinking back on your previous experience in tech, and the word disruption comes up frequently in tech. This certainly sounds like disruption of what we would view as traditional construction, I guess. Neighbors would see, a home go up in a day and then people moving in within a couple of weeks. Typically, we are accustomed to seeing a job site of sorts, people all over that job site at different times. How much manpower or people power goes into the construction of one of your homes at Cabanovo?
Yeah, so the work on site is dramatically reduced, and then in the factory, it's a mix of, manual people power right now, and then evolution over time to highly automated factories. Largely so we can keep up and run 24 hours a day, all that kind of thing across a number of factories across Canada. That'll be a journey that we're going to explore over time for sure. But I would say the thing that's interesting here is this is not in competition with other forms of housing. What I mean by that is the infill, new neighborhoods, big towers. We want to continue all that. But the missing middle, which is really, the second generation housing, taking down older neighborhoods that have near the end of their life in terms of what we want and what we want for the next 100 years. That small infill project done traditionally has been uneconomic because it's just hard to do. So that's really what we're trying to do here is make that second crop of housing be economically viable. And for that, we need a different way. And I'd say the motion we're developing at Cabanovo will be reproduced by others. And really we don't want that to compete for resources. Think of it as manpower, plumbers, those things, with the other arms of housing, because we want this to be net additive to capacity.
I find the whole idea fascinating. It certainly makes a lot of sense. What has to happen, Mark, in order for you to take that next step in scaling up?
So the current phases we're in what we call our prototype phase or prove it phase, which will be for a couple of years as we demonstrate all the capabilities and get, I'd say, the other partners on side. But ultimately, the next phase, in my current factory, I can't make a real meaningful dent in my million. And I like to say the 10 years hasn't started yet. Really, I need my first big factories. And you can think of, in order to do $1 million, you need roughly 8 factories across Canada. And these are on the scale of an automotive factory. So Ontario would need 2 of these factories, one in southwestern Ontario, serving southwestern Ontario and half of Toronto, and one on the other side of Toronto, serving the other half of Toronto and Kingston, like that side of Ontario. And these would have to be delivering 15 of these buildings a day. And you'd have 8 of these factories across Canada. So that's how you get to the million over a year. So this is not a 1-year journey. This is a 10, 15, 20-year journey here at Cabanovo. And there's lots of things, there's lots of friction here with the system because, again, the system is designed to be, one project at a time, and Cabanovo is a whole series of projects. And we're here to work with all the partners over time and learn together on what we need to do to be able to get there.
I think it's fascinating and incredibly ambitious. Would love to see, though, even make a dent in that million over 10 years, because Lord knows one thing we need is housing. Mark, I really appreciate you making time in what I'm sure is a busy day to chat with us about it today. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Mark Morin is the co-founder and executive chairman of Cabanovo. The 10 years hasn't started yet. They're in the show me how it works phase, if you will. I'm sorry, I forgot Mark's exact wording there, but we're proving the model, and then scale up happens from there. 8 automotive-sized factories across the country, including 2 right here in Ontario. The way it was described in the story that I read about it, think of Toyota, and I think we can all wrap our heads around that in this community, right? Cranking out those automobiles. Same idea. A lot of automation in the production, cranking out those homes. 15 per day per factory. Get to your million in 10 years. Factory made, put it up in a day, move in within 2 weeks, filling that missing middle that we talk so much about. 1 million homes in 10 years. I think the numbers are meant to grab our attention, which they certainly have. The number one thing, and I'm not trying to throw cold water on what I think is an excellent idea. I mean, to me, and maybe you heard something different or you know more because you're way smarter than I am, but this makes sense. You can put this down on paper and build the case, as I think Mark Morin just did from Cabanovo, that it absolutely can be done. Lots of things have to happen between now and 1 million homes, including those 8 automotive-sized production facilities. But that notwithstanding, I can see how this model scales. The big barrier that I see in this is regulation. I think the zoning and other red tape, if you will, in this and any other city in Canada, take anywhere Canada, that will be the biggest barrier. And I get where Mark is coming from with creating a suite, if you will, of models to meet the different regulations in different parts of the country. But you're going to have to keep that suite of models, if you will, to a low number. You can't have 48 or 148 different ideas. We've got 440 municipalities just here in Ontario. That would suggest to me 440 different sets of regulations for building. So I think until we streamline that, this is going to be a really difficult thing to achieve. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. Again, I don't want to put cold water on it. I think it's fantastically ambitious. 1 million homes in 10 years. What do you make of it? And if it's not regulation, zoning, red tape, whatever you want to call it, that would stand in the way, what might stand in the way from your perspective, if anything at all? Like I said, you're smarter than me. Would love to hear from you on the show. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
The missing middle, which is really, the second generation housing, taking down older neighborhoods that have near the end of their life in terms of what we want and what we want for the next 100 years. That small infill project done traditionally has been uneconomic because it's hard to do. So that's really what we're trying to do here is make that second crop of housing be economically viable. And for that, we need a different way.
That different way is starting at the old Kraus Flooring Factory in Waterloo. Cabanovo and its co-founder and executive chair, Mark Morin, joining us this morning. The ambitious goal, 1 million homes in 10 years. What say you about that? We'll go to the phones. Bob, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. Can I get number 680?
Farwell's force member?
Yep.
I mean, we're only at 240, but if you want to... Okay.
I know, because then I want to throw out a challenge to make me the middle guy.
The middle guy?
Yeah.
How would that be?
At 680, I want to be halfway between the first and last.
You think we're going to get to, what do we got, 1360?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Bob, what's your last initial?
R.
Bob R., number 680, official Farwell's Force member. You got it, my friend.
Cool. Now, the monkey wrench that I want to throw in, you got to do this without killing too much, if any, of the farmland. It's not going to be real good to have 1 million extra homes just to watch everybody starve to death.
A fair question, or a fair point to make. Remember, this is infill. This is where, because you heard Mark talk about demolition. So think of your average neighborhood today in Kitchener, fourplexes as of right? So we take down what used to be a single-family detached home, and we put up a fourplex. And other things like that. Infill. This is not a brand new subdivision. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I just caught the tail end of your last segment, but I'm pretty sure I got the gist of it. And you were just saying, the problems with development fees and different regulations, blah, blah, blah. And that just goes for the homes. What about the headaches involved in constructing these factories? I mean, with the planning permission, the space for the NIMBYism, that's going to be involved in that. I see that as the initial stumbling block.
Steve, I thought the same thing. Another great point raised. I would point you to Puslinch Township and Danby, which I always thought was a good corporate citizen, having a heck of a time getting a new facility approved in the Puslinch area. So great point there. Dallas, good morning.
Yeah, I like the idea. I got to say, it's certainly not a new idea. They've been doing it in Quebec for years and years now. Prefab homes, they bring them in on trucks and slide them on the foundation and such. And it makes perfect sense because, the house shows up and the people move in. My cousins got one years back, and they were in the house in 2 weeks from the time that it showed up to the time that it was theirs.
There you go. Just exactly what Mark Morin described, right? Home goes up in a day. 2 weeks later, folks are moving in. And yes, this is not the only modular home, prefab home, factory, or idea. But with the partners they've brought on board, including a company from Sweden, they think they've got what it takes to scale this up. 1 million homes in 10 years. We're counting. We'll keep our eyes on it. An update from the 570 News Center, and then that winning Memorial Cup bid last week in Guelph has a Cambridge connection to it. You'll hear from that Cambridge connection next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Kitchener Rangers fans, I will start with this. If it's still too fresh, I understand. The announcement still less than a week ago, about 5 days now, going back to last Thursday when we learned that the Guelph Storm would be hosting the 2027 Memorial Cup. There were 2 teams and markets in the running to host that tournament. Ours right here in Kitchener and our Rangers, and Guelph's with their Storm. And the Canadian Hockey League announced last Thursday that it would be the Guelph Storm playing host to the 2027 Memorial Cup. So if we want to get there as Kitchener Rangers, we got to win our way in, which, by the way, is a challenge I would gladly accept. I received not long after the news that Guelph had been named the hosts in 2027 a rather scathing email, and that's okay. I'm here for it. I want to hear all of the feedback, good, bad, or otherwise. And this was very pointed criticism, suggesting that if anybody from Kitchener or Waterloo had had a connection to this winning bid, I would have been all over it, shouting it from the rooftops. But just because there's somebody from Cambridge who's got a connection to this winning bid, it's radio silence. Well, I don't know about that. I happen to know this gentleman a little bit from my time in and around the game, around the rinks in the Ontario Hockey League, but the criticism was noted, and so we bring you that Cambridge connection to Guelph's winning bid for the 2027 Memorial Cup. That Cambridge connection is a native of the fine city of Cambridge. I may make fun of their budget meetings in Cambridge, but this is one of Cambridge's most famous hockey sons, and there are a lot, but this guy has done the city very proud on the ice and now off the ice as a minority owner with the Guelph Storm. Scott Walker will join our show this morning. I caught up with Scott at the media conference in Guelph last week, where all of the executives were there to talk about Guelph's successful bid to host the 2027 Memorial Cup. And in his remarks at that media conference, Cambridge native, former Hornet, Scott Walker, said that Guelph embodies junior hockey. So when I started chatting with Scott after the media conference, I asked him to start right there. What do you mean when you say Guelph embodies junior hockey?
Well, it's just we're not a huge community, like everybody said, and the rink's not the biggest, but it's a typical junior rink. 5,000 fans. I think we're just around 100,000 plus people, but we got a great surrounding. You know, we got Pushlands, we got Aberfoyle, we got Fergus, we got Arthur, we got Cambridge, and I know us and Kitchener fight over Cambridge, but I'm from there, so I get to say it. But listen, they really do. I mean, the fans come out. I think we're 90 plus capacity every night for the last 4 years, even when we're not good. So to be honest with you, I hate when people are putting it up to like, well, Guelph won over Kitchener. Kitchener is a great organization. I was there as a fan. I was a young kid, and I get it. But that just, I can tell you, when we were going into this and we were up against Kitchener, nobody knew it better than me that we had to be on our game. This was like how I prepared to play many, many hockey games as a player and coach. When you're going up against a great competitor, you better have everything dialed in, and that's what they said. They said they were dialed in. I'm not saying Kitchener wasn't, because our bid was never what Kitchener doesn't have, because Kitchener has a lot, probably everything. This was more about what Guelph can offer, and we knew we had to be on our toes. We had to play a perfect game to get it, and I got to give our team credit. We were dialed in. We had alumni that came, and they came out of the goodness of their heart, not because we made them or react. Like, they were reaching out, and the city, the sponsor, the outpouring of support has been no different than probably Kitchener. Like you said, I mean, I don't think you can say, well, Kitchener didn't do this or didn't do that. It was probably, I wasn't at their bid. I'm assuming it blew their socks off too. But, you know, it's just a testament that our guys did a world-class job. I mean, to beat them just says a lot, to be honest. And I'm not sure it's a beat or win or loss. I think the CHL is winning and the OHL is winning by having two teams that can put together bids that make it this hard to pick from. And to be honest with you, like, Kitchener probably gets it again. We might not, right? With all the new buildings and the way rink sizes are going, if it wasn't for our bicentennial, we might not have been bidding either, right? So this probably was, for us, a once in a lifetime, and that's why we really went all out for it.
As a minority owner in this franchise, what does it mean to bring this championship to the city of Guelph?
Well, it's huge. For me, like I said, I've been an owner now since 2011. Been to the Memorial Cup twice as a coach in London, and then obviously as a partner in Halifax. It's an amazing event, and I get it. We're trying to win it, but it's also about the experience. The one thing about the Memorial Cup is it's about the experience, because it is a one-game, ultimately at the end of the day, a one-game tournament. The OHL Championship, I always say this, is the hardest thing to win. I'm sure the other teams will say that about their league championships. For me, the OHL Championship is the hardest thing to win. the Memorial Cup, we all want to win it, but man, you have to have so many things go right for you in one game. So for me, I like to say it's an experience. I want my players to come, be a great team, try to win it as hard as you can, obviously. But at the end of the day, also enjoy the experience. And what a better place to do it than to be in your hometown, show off Guelph, show off your community to the fans around all of Canada.
You mentioned George Burnett in your comments as well, working with him now for 9 years. What do you say about his ability to build a winner next year?
Well, you know, he's been doing it a long time. And to be honest with you, now in hockey, as you know, relationships are important. He knows most of the agents firsthand. He's got a great knowledge of people to talk to around the league and in the outset. And to be honest with you, we let him take the lead, but we also have surrounded him with great people. We have Dan Cloutier as my assistant, myself, I help out, there's Corey Stillman, and George has done a great job of leaning on us or us picking our brain. But he has to be the guy who does out, like I call him the closer. He has to be the closer, and we can bring him lots of dumb or great ideas, whatever way you look at it. Lots of times I wonder what he thinks, but we can bring him all the ideas we want, and he has to weed through them, and ultimately at the end of the day make the final decision.
You mentioned your roots in Cambridge at the beginning of this conversation. I drove Highway 24 to get here, which takes me right back to that city. How do you feel as a kid from Cambridge to be bringing this championship so close by?
Well, it's amazing because I don't think it's a tournament that many people get. It's a bucket list thing, right? Like, obviously we're lucky. You've been around it a long time. I've been around a long time, but not all fans have. Not all small children have. Whether and it will be in Kitchener. It has been in Kitchener, London. But when it's really close to home, it's something that you get to go and experience all facets of it, not just the games. You know, there's a lot more to it than just the hockey. So for me, obviously, my sister went to the University of Guelph. My daughter goes to the University of Guelph. I've owned the Guelph Storm for a long time. So Guelph means a whole lot to me. So to be able to bring it, but then also have a place where I've called home my whole life, Cambridge, be this close, and have all my buddies and their kids and their kids' now. I mean, unfortunately, I'm getting so old where some of my buddies actually are grandparents. So, but they get to bring their kids. It's going to be an absolute pleasure. And I can tell you, I know all the guys in Kitchener. I know Dan. I know Joe. I know all their guys, and they're amazing people. And I would have been the first one to shake my hand and give them a nod if they won. So I'm assuming they think the same thing. And I know fans are passionate, are going to be upset, but at the end of the day, we're both winners by having it this close. And unfortunately, it came down to Kitchener-Guelph because we were so close. Been different if it was Kitchener-Ottawa or Guelph-Ottawa. I don't think either pick really affected the surrounding areas. So at the end of the day, I'm just hoping the Kitchener fans, give us a chance and come out and support it.
How about a West Final Guelph-Kitchener next year?
Well, absolutely. And there's no saying that Kitchener won't be here. I mean, we were in London when London hosted, and the West is really hard to win. So I'm not assuming it's going to be easy, and probably going to be extremely difficult. Absolutely, but that's what makes it fun too. I mean, our hockey in the West is amazing, and it prepares you, and it prepares the players, and the fans benefit from it. From a great, like every time you go to play in Kitchener, I played there in Owen Sound, and it was just a great place, and I get it. But the Sleeman Center, I know it takes a lot of hits right now in the media by, people, but it is a fantastic junior hockey rink, and I think one of the best. And to be honest, for the fan experience, it's amazing. Kitchener has a great tradition. When you go there, it's like the old Maple Leaf Gardens. I always love playing at Maple Leaf Gardens, but it's definitely different than the new ACC. So all the things change, but that doesn't mean that they're not a great organization, and obviously they're world class.
Congrats on the championship, and thanks for taking time to do this.
All right, thank you.
Scott Walker, former Owen Sound plater. When Guelph moved to Owen Sound way back when, now the minority owner with the Guelph Storm, which will be the team hosting and the city hosting the 2027 Memorial Cup. I say again to Rangers fans and us here collectively in the region, I know it still stings. I feel it. So sorry if it's a little too soon. But there is a local connection and a proud son of the city of Cambridge who not only played for the Owen Sound Platers, but went on to a nice National Hockey League career as well, now with the Guelph Storm as a minority owner. Cambridge native Scott Walker joins us on the show this morning. We're going to keep the theme, if you will, going for a little bit longer, sports-wise. Another big story came out yesterday. We learned of it not long before the media conference held by the Intercounty Baseball League, which is no longer. Now, if you're from these here parts, you know the Guelph Royals, you know the Kitchener Panthers. With the Kitchener Panthers, we're talking more than 100 years, more than a century of tradition. I've been going to Jack Couch Park my whole ding-dang life watching those Panthers, going back to when they wore orange and black. You remember that? Anyway, the Intercounty Baseball League is no longer. The Kitchener Panthers are still in existence, but they will now play in the Canadian Baseball League. Forget this idea of semi-professional baseball like intercounty ball. The Canadian Baseball League is a professional baseball league. There are all kinds of plans, including changes to the schedule so that there are more games, changes to the playoffs so that fewer teams make it, and even hints at future expansion to Windsor and maybe beyond that into Ottawa, Montreal, and who knows, even more. The Canadian Baseball League, a pro league. What does this mean, though, for our Kitchener Panthers, who will compete starting next season in the Canadian Baseball League? We'll find out as the Panthers general manager joins us next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. When I first read the headline, I thought, whoa, wait a minute here. The Kitchener Panthers, they play in the Intercounty Baseball League and have for a long time. But that is now about to change. We are welcoming the Canadian Baseball League to our community. That's the league the Panthers will play in moving forward. And there is a new air of professionalism around this Canadian Baseball League. Shanif Hirani is the general manager of the Kitchener Panthers, joins us this morning to talk about it. Good morning, Shanif.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Good. So tell me more about this Canadian Baseball League. What's this change all about?
For sure. So throughout, I would say, the past 3 years specifically, we've seen pretty rapid growth throughout the league with attendance, with fan engagement on our social media, and also on the field as well with the talent that's coming into the league. And it was growing at a pace that we felt as a league we needed to do something about this and how we could do it. So going professional was a conversation that was ongoing for, I would say, about a year at the league level. And then once we put all of our heads together and felt like we are putting the proper infrastructure in place, we decided to make the switch to the Canadian Baseball League.
So what does it mean to go professional? How does this change things for our Kitchener Panthers?
To be totally honest with you, a lot of the change is more on the back end of things, whether that's a more standardized player contract or some of the administrations that we have to do on the back end in regards to players. But when it comes to fan-facing, I think the main change they'll see is a higher level of competition on the field.
What does creating a professional league mean? Instead of this semi-pro that we used to look at the Intercounty Baseball League being, what does the change to professional mean for the league overall?
Well, I think first off, it adds a level of legitimacy to what we're doing outside of our specific cities that we play in. The Canadian Baseball League has a little bit of a stronger message, I guess, if someone doesn't know what the league is. So it adds legitimacy that way. And then it's, I think, overall going to be for fans, for new people coming into the league, it's something they can get excited about, like saying we have professional baseball in our home city. I know I was always going to Panthers games growing up, but if I could say that I had a pro town in my city, that's something I would brag about, and I'd be pretty excited about as well.
As an owner in this team, I know that your family, Shinif, and the Schooley family, under the Waterloo Region Sports and Entertainment banner, own and operate the Kitchener Panthers. Does this increase costs on that end? And by extension, would fans have to pay more for tickets?
No. So since we took over the team last December, so just about a year now, this is how we operated. And we have experience because of our work with the Titans as well. So fans can expect the same prices as this past season, as well as more upgrades. We want to keep working on the facility and the team as well to make it the best experience possible. So I think the unique thing about the former IBL, now CBL, is the affordability. It's a great way to get out into your community and then also watch extremely high-level sports, and that's still a focus of ours. So fans will be able to enjoy all the same things this year, and the product will become even better.
How do you feel about the changes with a slightly longer season schedule and fewer teams in the playoffs?
For the playoff situation, I'm excited about it. It adds more competitiveness to the regular season. Every game is going to matter, whereas before, with 8 teams making it, if you run through a little tough stretch, you can still bounce back. But here, there'll be even bigger focus on each individual game because one game could change the standings in either way. So I'm excited about that. And then for the extra games, I think it's just another great opportunity to put on another great event in our community. So we'll have 3 more home games, so that gives us 3 more opportunities to put on a great experience for our fans.
9 teams in the league right now. Is there room for more, Shinif?
Yes, there definitely is. With that being said, it has to be the right group, but those talks are ongoing at the league level with our commissioner, and I do foresee at least 1 and then hopefully a few more down the road as well to round out the league.
As we transition into this professional level of ball with the Canadian Baseball League, will there still be the same opportunities for local talent to make their mark in the league?
Certainly, yeah. So each roster will have 20 spots for Canadians. And also, we are going to be having an open tryout for local talent in December as well. I would love to be able to showcase local talent on our roster. So just having an opportunity to be able to see them up close is something we thought was really important. So that's something we're going to be doing in December.
A lot to look forward to, and when you can talk about baseball in late November, it's always a good day. Shinif, thanks for making time for the show this morning.
Thanks, Mike.
Shinif Hirani, general manager of the Kitchener Panthers, front-facing. As a fan, you're not going to see or notice any dramatic changes. Prices are going to stay the same, but what you will be able to see is a higher level of ball and a few more games on the home schedule as the former Intercounty Baseball League, now Canadian Baseball League schedule expands to add more games. Fewer teams make the playoffs. I'm a fan of that too. Let's add more importance to the regular season, make it tougher to get into that postseason dance, and the Canadian Baseball League is born. We're going to take a quick break, get you an update from the 570 News Center, then a Christmas market in support of a local charitable organization, and another that's got a traditional German feel to it. Those stories coming up on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We are today 1 month from Christmas Day. In fact, dare I say that 1 month from this moment, we're just cleaning up the wrapping, maybe finishing that second or third cup of coffee. And you know what's in that coffee on Christmas morning. I know what's in my coffee on Christmas morning. I usually take it black, not at the holidays. No sirree, Bob. So a month from Christmas, how do you get ready? Well, we are here to help in that regard because Christmas markets galore are happening around the community, including this weekend, Saturday to be exact, at Lincoln Road Chapel in Waterloo, and it's in support of Ray of Hope. So joining us from the Lincoln Road Chapel, Darian Kish is with us this morning. Darian, good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
And along with Darian, we have Katinka Murphy here. Good morning, Katinka.
Good morning, Mike.
And from Ray of Hope, Kyla Arsenault, who is the Director of Fundraising and Public Relations. Good morning to you, Kyla.
Good morning.
So, Darian, let's start with Lincoln Road Chapel itself and the chapel, your group, and how this Christmas market idea came to be.
Well, it was actually Katinka's idea 3 years ago. She realized that we had a lot of creative artisan type people in our congregation and kind of put her thinking cap on and thought, well, how can we make this something that we can all enjoy? And came to two of us in the congregation and said, what do you think about this? And as we talked more and more, we thought it was a fabulous idea to have a Christmas market, but we wanted it to have a purpose. And so our church's vision statement is that we are rooted and established in God's love, growing up together to be like Jesus, and bearing fruit through the Spirit by serving our neighborhood, city, and the world. And so when we looked at that, we thought, well, how can we take the third arm of that? And how can we serve our neighborhood, city, and the world? And we landed on Ray of Hope. We just feel that is just such an important organization that does really important work here in KW. And so we decided to make it a fundraiser. And so our first year was a little bit hodgepodge, and we kind of put things together on a hope and a prayer that things would go well. And it ended up being really well supported by our congregation and our entire community. And so that became the second part of why we do this. Our church has now become welcoming for our community. And so we wanted to gift them with a special day of shopping, but also a sweet treat in the cafe and a chance to get to know other neighbors. And so it's become sort of a little hub now at the end of November where people come and just hang out and also participate in an important fundraiser.
Katinka, you and I were kind of joking during that news update that the market is happening Saturday. Are you ready? No, because I know these things don't just happen overnight. So 3 years ago, Darian explains you come up with the idea. Any regrets?
No. Actually, it's been exciting to see it grow.
Yeah.
Like the first year, we had just over 20 vendors. Last year, we had 24. This year, we've got 29.
Great.
So, and the quality is getting better all the time. We've got some fantastic pottery. We've got at least 3 different woodworkers with different types of wood things. We've got somebody who's doing rope baskets, some sewers, knitters, a weaver. There's so much more. Honey, stained glass. I forgot my own. And I said to Darian the other day, I said, I feel like I should be panicking more. But I feel like at the same time, okay, we're getting used to this.
Right.
And it's becoming more and more a fun thing to do as a community, like Darian said as well. And I know that I've got a friend who's coming, 2 friends coming from far off, and they're choosing Saturday as a market day. But of course, they're going to start with ours first.
Of course they are.
So anybody else who's thinking of it, come to Lincoln Road Chapel first. We've got some really, really good things.
I just want to take half a step back because my ears perked up, Darian, when you mentioned a sweet treat in your cafe. Sugar is one of my main food groups. I've never met something sweet that I didn't want to consume. Tell me more, please.
Well, our entire congregation has been baking and prepping. And our philosophy is that we have a luxurious dessert for everybody to enjoy. So the trade-off of that is that we ask that you bring a non-perishable food item to the market. That's your entry fee. And in exchange, you get a ticket to go into the cafe and enjoy a hot drink and a sweet treat.
I'm so excited all of a sudden. I can't. Is it Saturday yet? Okay. Kyla, let me swing this over to you because Ray of Hope, as Darian explained initially, was the organization that Lincoln Road Chapel decided to support. Tell us more about the work you do at Ray of Hope.
In downtown Kitchener, there's a community center that we call the Ray of Hope Community Center, and it's a place for people who are experiencing poverty and homelessness to come, and they can access meals. We're open 365 days a year. They can have meals, they can have a shower, they can do a load of laundry, they can access our Marketplace Food Hamper program, which is part of the food bank, and they can have access to programming and services to help them take the next steps forward in life. We've seen our numbers increase. We get about 150 for lunch and just over 300 people for dinner every night. So we're sitting between 400 people and 500 people every single day coming in and accessing food and services. But it's a hopeful place. And so when I say that, it sounds like it might be a depressing place to be, but it's not. We've got staff and volunteers and friend groups who come in and sit around and support each other, and we connect with them and get them access to what they need and what support they need.
You know, if I may, you talk about it being a hopeful place. Mm-hmm. So I've never had the chance to share this with somebody from Ray of Hope since it happened. This goes back many, many years, and I took part in a little experiment, if you will, here in the community where we were challenged to live off of $20 for the week for groceries, because that's what somebody living on ODSP would only have left over in their budget. So I accepted that challenge and I followed it to the nickel. Actually, we still had pennies back then. But anyway, I followed it and I ran out of money and I didn't want to quote unquote cheat. So what I did was on my 7th day, I came for a community meal at Ray of Hope. Well, I felt so much guilt even going in there because I could have just gone and cheated on the experiment. But anyway, so welcoming, Kyla. And what a great community. I sat down with folks I'd obviously never met. We had dinner together. Nobody batted an eye when I came there with a plate to have it filled with food, and you put on a great spread for us. So amazing. A very welcoming and uplifting place.
Amazing.
It was so great. I loved it. What does money like Lincoln Road Chapel will raise for you through this market do for Ray of Hope?
It will help us to feed people. And so as many of you know, price of food has gone up. And so we price out our meals at about $4.42 a meal. And so the goal that this group has will cover 1,300 meals at the community center, which is a fantastic amount. And so it provides that, but it also provides more. So when our group came last year, some of our guests got wind of what was happening, the crafts, and they wanted to participate. So one of our staff members started something on Thursday afternoons called Community Canvas, and it's an art group where the guests could create some pieces of art that then they're going to sell at this marketplace. So we're also going to have some guest art. The people who come to our community center, we refer to as guests. So we're going to have some guest art there that we're going to sell as well. So we've had the money that's raised from it. But bigger than that, too, is the awareness that comes of it so more people find out about it, and a place to give back purpose to the people who come and visit us. So many of the people who come to the community center have either a developmental disability, a brain injury of some kind, or have experienced trauma, and that's what brings them to us. So giving them a sense of purpose where they can give back by creating something and selling something at the marketplace has been really powerful as well.
If I did the math correctly, roughly $6,000 we're looking to raise here, Katinka?
Yeah, correct.
Incredible.
That is correct, yeah.
Okay, how much have you been able to raise in the past 2 years?
So last year it was just over 5,000.
Great.
This year we're already at 2,000 just with the table rentals. So we're just hoping that there'll be opportunities for people to actually give donations directly to Ray of Hope, as well as each of the vendors will hopefully give a percentage of their sales. So we're looking forward to a good, and I know that some vendors will say, and Kyla has a relative as well, who everything goes to Ray of Hope, right? And I know that there's at least 2 vendors like that, and others like 50% of what they sell will go to Ray of Hope. So that means they're not making any money, but it's a contribution.
Sure.
Yeah.
And 'tis the season for making contributions like that.
Absolutely. Especially when you think so many people, like the grocery prices have gone up.
Of course.
Right. It's just a great opportunity for us to help.
Part of the mission at Lincoln Road Chapel, Darian, as you explained, to give back to the broader community, be good global citizens. So Ray of Hope, the beneficiary, again, hoping to raise that $6,000. We've talked about all of the great things that will be at the market. How do we get there? When does it happen? Saturday?
Yes, Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., 145 Lincoln Road, Waterloo. So it's across the street from Moses Springer Park, if you know the Moses Springer Community Center. The old Y building, for anybody who's been around KW for a very long time.
Count me in that group.
Come on in the front door. Our lead pastor, Reg Lewicki, will be there to welcome everybody and give you your little treat ticket. And yeah, if you can bring a shopping bag, that would be great. We're trying to be a little bit more environmentally conscious this year. So yeah, and there'll be live music. There's a number of musicians in our congregation who are going to be playing piano or violin, and we'll be celebrating the Christmas spirit throughout the day.
You had me at the wonderful support of an organization like Ray of Hope, but you sealed the deal with the sweet treat. So that sounds great. Lincoln Road Chapel, Saturday, starting at 10, goes till 2, all proceeds in support of Ray of Hope and the work that they do. Let's raise that $6,000 and then some. Ladies, thank you very much for making the time to come in today, and I hope it's a great market on the weekend.
Thank you. Hope to see you there.
Yeah,
Darian Kish, Katinka Murphy, and Kyla Arsenault from Ray of Hope joining us on the Mike Farwell Show this morning, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. As the ladies from Lincoln Road Chapel just said, make Saturday a market day. Why not? You can join them at their market in support of Ray of Hope, starting at 10 a.m. Saturday. The chapel at 145 Lincoln Road in Waterloo. The old Y, if you know, you know, across from Moses Springer there on Lincoln Road. But when you make it a market day, that also means you can take time after you pop into the Lincoln Road Chapel Market to stop by Concordia Club. In fact, at Concordia Club, they're going to get their 5th annual Christmas market underway on Friday, the 28th at 4 p.m., and then it runs right through the weekend. And here to tell us more about it is our good friend, Fred Troutrim, better known as Fritter Fred. If you know, you know. Fritter Fred, good morning.
Good morning, Mike. I don't think I can outlive that name.
No, it fits so perfectly. And listen, if your fritters weren't so darn good, you wouldn't be known as Fritter Fred. You know that, right?
Well, I couldn't do it also without my partner, my brother, Peter. Peter and I have been doing this since 2011, the Apple Fritters, and we've gained a bit of a reputation for it. And so we're happy to be part of the Concordia Weihnachtmarkt, again, as you said, for year 5. And, yeah, we're really excited to be there. And, Mike, I'd like to say, anyone that walks up to our window and gets Peter's attention or my attention and mentions this radio conversation will get an additional few fritters. So they have to mention 570 and your name, Mike Farwell, and we will look after them with a few extra fritters.
All right. Fritter Fred, from your lips to the ears of Farwell's force. Listen, my beloved and I have made this market an annual tradition now. So anyone else who wants to make it part of their tradition, maybe you've been before, maybe you're just going to go for the first time this year. It starts on Friday afternoon at 4. It runs right through Sunday at Concordia Club. Stop by the Fritter House and let either Peter or Fred know that you heard about the market right here on the Farwell Show, and you'll get a few extra fritters into your order, because that's how generous these guys are. Love that. Let's make sure we take them up on it. Get those extra fritters, because they don't count for calories at this time of the year. Beyond the lineup that's always outside the fritter truck, Fred, inside at the Weihnachtmarkt, what are we going to find this year?
I'm glad we're talking about that because, yes, we're very, very happy to have a very good selection of vendors back. We have over 30 vendors, Mike, and again, for year 5, we're looking again at crafts, artisans, kids' activities, lots of delicious food that's being offered, like there are baked goods and other vendors that are bringing things there as well. We also have Glühwein happening there, hosted by the club. So there are many things, if you're looking for just simple Christmas shopping for some decorations or perhaps some pottery or maybe some crafts, we have a very nice selection of vendors. And I think everyone would enjoy it because it's inside. It's in the main hall of the Concordia Club. It's very warm. It has a fantastic Christmas atmosphere to it. And yeah, I think that's going to be a very, very nice event for people to spend a little bit of their time this coming weekend.
We certainly enjoy that Christmas atmosphere inside the Concordia Club. It really brings on the air of that traditional German market for sure. And I know, as always, Fred, there is a charitable side to this as well, if we can bring something for the Food Bank of Waterloo Region.
Very important, Mike. Thank you. Yes, the Concordia Club is in support of the Food Bank of Waterloo Region. So we will collect for the Food Bank, and we'll also hand out coupons for 25% off to be used at the Concordia Club for the Schenke restaurant. So if people are familiar with the Schenke, we're very well known for the German menu there. So a 25% coupon. And what we're asking for is people would bring a minimum of 5 non-perishable food items or 1 box of sanitary products. Things that we know are also very popular are non-perishable food in jars and cans like sauces, soups, beans, honey, peanut butter, rice, and canned meat. All of those are very, very important. If you can help us help our food bank, we would really, really appreciate it.
I've often described the Schenke restaurant as one of the best kept secrets in this region. I don't know how well kept the secret is anymore because it is a wonderful place for German fare. But there you go. Get a 25% off coupon for the Schenke restaurant, which is right there at Concordia Club, if you bring a donation of 5 non-perishable food items or a box of sanitary products to the Weihnachtmarkt this weekend. Starts on Friday. Can you give us the hours, Fred, that it will be open for us this weekend?
Absolutely. On Friday, we start at 4 p.m., so that's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we go to 8 o'clock. So from 4 to 8 this Friday. And then on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., and on Sunday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., so 10 to 4 in the afternoon.
Plenty of time for us to get our Christmas shopping on and maybe even lots of it done, because these are really, when you bring in these vendors, these are really unique items we're going to be able to get our hands on.
We have a really nice selection, and there's over 30 of them. There's too many to name, but if you're looking for jewelry, paper crafts, pottery, woodworking, all sorts of unique things that you probably wouldn't find anywhere else, we have it here at the Weihnachtmarkt. We really believe that it's going to be a nice experience for people just to spend some time. Even if you can only come out for a short visit, we'd love to see you there.
Absolutely. And pick up some fritters while you're there. Let Fred or his brother Peter know that you heard about it on the Farwell show, and you'll get a few extra fritters in your order. Fred, thanks very much for making the time for the show.
Mike, if I could, I need to add one very more. This is an incredible change this year for us.
Absolutely.
One more item.
Yeah.
Well, Mike, I have to ask you, have you ever seen on Victoria Street the Boy Scouts of Canada selling their Christmas trees over at that Canadian Tire?
Oh, my gosh, that used to be one of our traditions to go there, yes.
Well, this year marks the start of a new tradition because the Concordia Club is hosting the Boy Scouts Troop Number 24 Kitchener for Christmas tree sales. And it's happening right now. You can come to our parking lot and you'll see that whole setup with probably 1,000 trees. No, I'm exaggerating. I think it's about 400, it's about 400 trees. But yes, they have actually now made the Concordia Club their home for the Boy Scouts Christmas tree sales. So if you can come out also to support them, we would greatly appreciate it. And they are operating Monday to Friday from 5:30 to 9 p.m., Saturday from 9 a.m. to about 9 p.m., and then Sunday from 11 in the morning to 7 p.m. And they're going to be there from now until the Christmas trees sell out. Normally, by about December 20, they should be wrapped up.
That's amazing. Good on you for stepping up when they lost that old location. I love it. And Fred, we'll see you on the weekend for sure.
Thank you for your support and everything that 570 does in our community for us, Mike. All the best.
You too, Fred. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Fred Troutrim, also known as Fritter Fred. He and his brother Peter will be in the Fritter truck at Concordia Club on the weekend. Make sure, come on, give the show a little love. Let Fred know or Peter that you heard it here on the Farwell show. Get some extra fritters. That's just the bonus for you. The market itself, 5th annual, beautiful little traditional Christmas market inside Concordia Club, starts on Friday at 4, runs right through the weekend. And hey, you need that Christmas tree? Boy Scouts are selling from the Concordia Club lot on Ottawa Street. Concordia Club giving back this holiday season. An update from the 570 News Center, and then protecting our kids from online harms. We'll talk about it next on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
This is where today's topics turn into today's talking points. It's local and it's Democratic radio at its finest. This is the Mike Farwell Show on 570 News Radio.
Across this country, children are being exploited, extorted, bullied, manipulated, and exposed to dangers that no child should ever face. All because the digital spaces they occupy every day are not designed with their safety in mind. At 12 noon, we will launch the Countdown for Kids, a 40-day national call for Parliament to act, because we cannot start another year sacrificing one more child to online harms.
The Mike Farwell Show continues
on 570 News Radio.
That was Andrea Chrysanthu, chair of the board with Children First Canada, at a media conference last Thursday, National Child Day, advocating for legislation, federal legislation, to protect our children from online harms. The founder and CEO at Children First Canada is Sarah Austin, and she joins our show this morning. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you making the time for the show. And I wanted to start with what we just heard there from Andrea, the Countdown for Kids. What is the Countdown for Kids?
The Countdown for Kids is a 40-day campaign calling on the federal government to table the Online Safety Act and take urgent action to protect our children online. It's a coalition supported by children's hospitals, charities, research institutes, but most importantly, parents, children, and youth who've had enough. We're done waiting. This has been going on for years, waiting for our government to introduce legislation that will protect our kids online. And so we're trying to light a fire under them and really rally Canadians from coast to coast to coast to hold our government accountable and ensure that we start a new year with a sense of hope and optimism that our kids will be safer in digital spaces.
Why is it so urgent that we get this legislation?
Yeah, as we heard from Andrea, every single day, kids in Canada all across this country are being bullied, extorted, and exploited online. Sadly, far too many parents have had to bury their children because of, grave harms that their children have suffered, particularly issues like bullying and sextortion. These are issues of life and death. I'm a parent. I have a 15-year-old kid, and I know what it's like to help my kid navigate these issues. And too much of the burden is being put on parents and kids to navigate this, and we're put in an impossible situation. For 20 years now, the government has trusted the tech sector to do the right thing, and they've simply proven themselves untrustworthy. They prioritize profit over the protection of our children, and we need a government to step up and to regulate this. Every other aspect of children's lives is regulated when you think about the food they eat, the medicine they take, the school buses they ride in, or their cars that they sit in. Everything has got regulations, around the protection of our children. But the digital spaces that they occupy from the moment that they wake up to the moment they go to sleep are completely unregulated, and it's putting our children's lives on the line.
What would online harms legislation look like? What would it do?
Most importantly, it would hold the tech companies accountable and ensure that they have a duty of care to create better safe spaces for our children, whether it's social media apps, gaming platforms, the toys. We're seeing a rise of AI toys in this holiday season right now, and we're seeing so many situations where kids are being exposed to really grave harms. Importantly, it will also ensure accountability, and so we've called for the introduction of an independent regulator to hold these tech companies accountable and to intervene when there are violations. But practically speaking, for parents, it will mean that they can have more confidence when their kids are using digital devices, whether they're toys or laptops, phones, their computers, and feeling a greater sense of confidence that their kids can be safer online.
Why does the legislation need to be retabled, Sarah? Did it just get lost when the last parliament was dissolved?
Yeah, sadly, we've been waiting far too long for the government to do the right thing. The Liberal government pledged in 2021 to do this within the first 100 days. Well, here we are more than 1,000 days later, and we're still waiting. Legislation was tabled earlier this year, but the election was called, and so the legislation, the proposed bill died on the books and has not been retabled. We know that government has many competing priorities right now, pipeline projects, infrastructure, all kinds of important and worthy tasks. But I think Canadians can all agree that there's nothing more important than the protection of our children, and we need this to be treated as the crisis that it is. And so we want them to table this legislation before year end and to work actively, every member of Parliament to set politics aside and to really prioritize the safety of our children.
Have you had any indication that this is a priority for the government?
Well, I'm hearing from everybody I speak to in government saying that it's a priority, and yet we're not seeing those words being matched with action. And we've heard that the Minister of Justice and the Minister of Heritage say that these issues are important and that they plan to table legislation, and yet we're not seeing any tangible steps to a clear timeline, and that's really why we're putting the emphasis on these 40 days to get the job done. We're at the 35-day mark. The clock is ticking. They need to treat this with the urgency that it really requires.
What would legislation do that a parent cannot?
Well, I think there's really a lot of things that the legislation will do. First, importantly, I think parents are trying to navigate these spaces and just feeling like we're up against an impossible task. Right now, the default is to the least, protective setting. So, for instance, a parent of a Tesla car may not know that Grok is being downloaded to their car, and that their child may be sitting in the car and communicating with Grok and be exposed to really harmful content that's being fed to their children. There was recent incidents of Grok telling children to share nudes. While the kids were sitting in their family car. When it comes to gaming platforms, better regulation around how age limits for some of these issues, or how kids can communicate using texting, messaging apps, but also just trying to regulate issues like the algorithms right now that are feeding our kids very, very harmful content, whether it's around eating disorders and weight issues, online hate content. We could go on and on and on. There are so many different ways that our kids are being exposed to harmful content that this legislation would step in and help. And, Canada's not a world leader in this regards and doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. Countries like the UK, the EU, Australia, many others have stepped up and done the right thing, and it's time for Canada to follow suit.
So what have those other countries done that are the right thing? What could we implement here that matches or mirrors what they're doing there?
I think one of the most important pieces is the duty of care and really holding tech companies accountable and ensuring that they are stepping up and prioritizing the safety of children over profit. Another important piece of this is the independent regulator that can step in and act and hold these companies accountable, particularly if they do harm. To be able to help intervene when kids or their families are in dire distress. Whether it's the removal of harmful content. We've seen particularly in recent months the rise of AI harms for children, whether it's things like chatbots or AI exploitation of children, AI images being circulated of children that are really harmful. And right now, there's no recourse for these issues. Parents have no way to get justice for their children, to get that content removed or to hold perpetrators accountable. And so that accountability is really critical.
Sarah, I really appreciate your advocacy on the issue and your time on the show today. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much. And I encourage everyone to go to countdownforkids.ca to learn more and to sign a petition and hold our government accountable.
Excellent website, easy to remember, countdownforkids.ca. Thank you again, Sarah.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Sarah Austin is the founder and CEO of Children First Canada. Countdownforkids.ca. A whole lot more information and to follow that countdown, which started at 40 days last Thursday on National Child Day. The federal government under Justin Trudeau promised in 2021 it would bring in this Online Safety Act within its first 100 days. Failed to do so. Here we are now more than 1,000 days later and still no action. So Children First Canada and others are advocating that we don't get into 2026 without having this legislation reintroduced and perhaps even implemented, because our children cannot wait any longer. I struggle with this so damn much. I really do. Because obviously I'm a dinosaur in this regard. right? I grew up in a world where we didn't have these concerns because these supercomputers were not in our hands at all times. I do remember the conversations in our house when I was a kid about watching too much TV, or when the in-home video game console, that old Atari 2600 came along. Can't spend too much time just sitting around playing video games, Mikey. And I would push the boundaries. We had limits put on it, an hour. But you can obviously start when your parents aren't watching, claim you just started 10 minutes ago, all those different things to push those boundaries. But the bottom line is those boundaries existed. But that's all the boundaries had to exist for. Oh, the video game machine that's in the house. Oh, the amount of time you spend watching Saturday morning cartoons or whatever the case may be, right? Today, I don't know how parents navigate this minefield. And there's a part of me that says we don't need legislation because legislation shouldn't override or interfere with the rules that parents put in place for their kids and their households. But I'm starting to waver on that a whole heck of a lot in light of just the one example that Sarah shared, and that is your electric vehicle may be automatically downloading an artificial intelligence bot onto your devices and pushing information to your kids. Who doesn't have a tablet to entertain the kids on a road trip, for example? And who knows what they're being exposed to on that tablet if there are no guardrails in place. There's a local doctor we've had on the show before. Her name is Allison Young. She's known online as the Smartphone Effect MD, and she's done incredible work on this file. She sees in her practice as a doctor in Kitchener the impacts of all of these screens, all of these devices, all of this information on our kids. And even when it was Meta/Instagram that I think made the big deal out of its teen-focused platform with the guardrails allegedly in place, well, Dr. Allison Young here in Kitchener created a profile as a 13-year-old and then shared through her regular account the kind of content that was being pushed to her as a 13-year-old. And let me tell you, it wasn't the kind of stuff I'd want my 13-year-old seeing. Again, to go back to that part of me that says, why do we need legislation in place of parenting? I don't think it's possible in this day and age. I don't know. There's a lady that lives up Port Elgin way. We've had her on the show before too. Catherine Martinko, I'm pretty sure is the name. But she has implemented in her home an age limit to have a cell phone. And I think it's 15. And what's it like in your house? How old were your kids before they got their first phones, right? I don't know that abstinence is even possible in this regard anymore. And then you allow the device, and even if you put your own restrictions around it, you have to be on the device in a common area of the house. You can only be on the device for this many hours. You don't know what is being sent to the device by the algorithm or anything else. It scares the HE double hockey sticks out of me. This is a brand new world of wild, wild west frontiers. And I pity the parents that are dealing with it in this moment. Do we need legislation? You're damn right we need legislation. And big tech has to be held accountable. How you rein in something this massive, I haven't the foggiest, but I love having the conversation with you because you always bring good ideas to the show. So let's hear them. Phone lines are open to you on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
the algorithms right now that are feeding our kids very, very harmful content, whether it's around eating disorders and online hate content. We could go on and on and on. There are so many different ways that our kids are being exposed to harmful content that this legislation would step in and help. And, Canada's not a world leader in this regard, and it doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. Countries like the UK, the EU, Australia, and many others have stepped up and done the right thing, and it's time for Canada to follow suit.
Sarah Austin is the founder and CEO at Children First Canada. That organization last Thursday on National Child Day launched the Countdown for Kids, 40 days until the end of the year. Hey, federal government, let's follow through on the commitment made more than 1,000 days ago to introduce and pass an online safety act. It has not yet happened, and advocates say it is well past its time. Countdownforkids.ca if you want to learn more about it. But I'm interested in hearing from you about how legislation complements or overrides what parents do in their own homes for their kids. I used to think it's a parental responsibility that doesn't require the support of legislation. I've come around on that because I don't know how any adult can possibly navigate this minefield of algorithms and chatbots and you name it. And some way, somehow, the tech companies that create all of this need to be held to account for how they disseminate all of the information, how they program algorithms to curate content for our kids that probably shouldn't be curated for our kids. Can you hold big tech to account in this? That's what an online safety act would endeavor to do. Let's go to the phones and hear from you on this. Mike, Farwell's Force official, member number 37 from Point Clark. Good morning.
Actually, I'm in Toronto today, Mike.
Welcome to the show, friend.
Yeah, I spent 43 years in the IT industry, right, and process automation industry, and I've often helped some parents with blockers and programs and stuff like that to deny access to certain things. However, Mike, as soon as I install the darn thing on it, the tech companies find a way to get around it. I think the other thing that this new legislation has to address is how addictive this is to some young people. Give you an example. Some cottagers up there wanted some internet access, right? They were neighbors. And I said, okay, I'll give you access so you can read your email or maybe watch a movie or something like that. Mike, the kids all showed up. Guess how many devices came on my network? 25 devices, streaming God knows what. And it brought my internet down to a crash. And I was being kind, but when I cut them off my internet, and wailing and everything else from these kids. Go out to the beach and have some fun. Go for a swim, right? They don't do that. They're all there, sitting there, clicking their device and watching stuff. And, Mike, this is too addictive. So I think the other thing that needs to be done here on these big tech companies is limiting the number of hours that an account can watch this stuff. Because basically, Mike, a parent, as you said, cannot do this anymore. And those are my thoughts, Mike.
All right, Mike, thanks for the call. The addictive nature of it is another excellent point in all of this. It's funny, Mike says, go to the beach, certainly up in Bruce County, do something outdoors. We were out for a walk the other night, my beloved and I, and we saw some kids just kind of hanging out, playing under the bridge. And the first thing I did was, because I'm me, I made some joke about trolls. But then I said, you know what? Like, I don't know what the appeal necessarily is, but I'm not those kids. And guess what? Better than being on a screen. Go hang out under the bridge and do whatever it is you were doing. They didn't seem to be causing any harm. They were just hanging out, probably using their imaginations for something. And I would much rather see kids do that, hang out under the bridge, than stare at a screen and download God knows what for God knows how long to consume. So good on you, kids. Go be a troll in my neighborhood any day of the week. Got an email not long ago to mike@570news.com from our friend M in Guelph, Farwell's Force member number 73. And M is in on the winter song request for this Friday's All Request Friday theme. It's not there yet. It's still going to be mild tomorrow, but brace yourself. Thursday, it's a-coming, the polar vortex, and by Friday, we will be into a bit of a winter wonderland. Several centimeters should be on the ground by then. So, assuming the forecast is right, we're going with the weather people here. By Friday, when All Request Friday rolls around, it's going to be winter-themed songs for your All Request Friday. So on Fridays, we play songs that you want to hear a little bit of. The theme this week is winter. I know the calendar doesn't say it, but it's going to look like it by Friday. So get your winter-themed requests into us. Do like M did, drop me an email to mike@570news.com. Or when you call in to talk about the issues of the day, just let Devin, who's on the other side of the glass today, know that this is the winter song that you want to hear on All Request Friday this week. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Well, I received an email a couple of days ago. Maybe it was late last week, I guess. Anyway, it was simple. It was to the point. It said, we'd like to talk more about our organization on your show. So, being the research-intensive host that I am, I clicked the link. I thought, wow, this sounds interesting. I didn't know this existed. And I'm more than happy to profile it on the show because it sounds like a really interesting organization. Just letting you know again that I am the furthest thing from somebody who knows everything. It's your ears and eyes that keep me informed of what's going on around here. So the new thing that I have just learned about, and you can learn more about now, is CISV Canada, Building Global Friendship. And a leader trainer there is Mitch Lacey, who joins me in studio to talk about it. Mitch, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for making the time. I was glad to get the email. And because I've had a little bit of time to learn a little bit more about CISV, but because our listeners are just hearing about it now, tell me more about CISV. What's the organization all about?
Yeah, absolutely. CISV is an international peace education organization for youth aged 11 to 16. So it functions all around the world and is primarily structured around a summer camp programming where people from 10 different countries and small delegations of 4 youth come and live, learn, laugh, eat, and play together for about 4 weeks, learning about different cultures, the challenges of the world, geopolitics, and, like you mentioned, building global friendship.
What led you into CISV initially?
Both my parents did CISV, and they actually met in CISV when they were youth, and so it's kind of been a bit of a rite of passage for my family. But CISV really functions off of the tapping of shoulders and the pulling in a friend who you feel is a awesome community builder, somebody who wants to volunteer and help build the leaders of tomorrow.
What would you say? I mean, I'm thinking of 11 to 16-year-olds, Mitch, and geopolitics. Like, that's some pretty heavy-duty stuff, although it's a pretty big and, interesting world these days. So what did you take away from your time with CISV?
Yeah, CISV focuses on 4 central pillars of human rights, diversity, sustainable development, and conflict resolution. And the way that we look to educate is through play and doing. So we take a typical summer activity like capture the flag and put a bit of a spin on it. We talk about refugees and the way that they were trying to get across borders and have that structured through the gameplay. And then following that, we'll do a debrief discussion that's led by the adults. So a couple of questions here and there, leading them to think more deeply about their place in the world and how they can help support others, which then leads back to when you come back from your international travel to have some more boots on the ground and reach out to community, like-minded organizations to see if you can help out. So when I was a youth, we went and connected with a refugee center in Kitchener, and we were able to cook a meal for them and kind of give them some support after learning all about this for the summer.
You had talked about that sort of 4-week intensive time spent together. It's just, summer camp with a purpose. Can we describe it that way?
Absolutely, and that's how it is. We have a couple of different structured programs. So our flagship program is for the 11-year-olds, and that's the 4-week one. But we also have opportunities for 12, 13-year-olds and 15-year-olds, and then as you start to age up, more junior counselor roles for 16, 17-year-olds, and then the leaders are the 21 plus, and that's where I really have focused on the training piece.
Right. So I was going to point out that you are well beyond 16. Well, I shouldn't say well, I'm well beyond 16, but you are beyond those years. But here you are as a leader trainer now. Yes. What keeps you connected to CISV?
Having been a participant and just having so many connections around the world, I've attended 5 camps as participants. So having a friend in just about every European country, many of the Central South American countries, keeps you connected, keeps you wanting to come back and share this experience with other youth so that they can have the same ideas and become the leaders of tomorrow. And doing that, we need to have really strong adult leaders to safeguard the children and manage the risk management while providing these awesome experiences for the youth.
What would you say as an individual you gained from your time with CISV and perhaps continue to gain?
Yeah, there's always learning out there, and I continue to do that. As a youth, I always felt I was a step ahead of some of my peers just in life experiences, but the conflict resolution and the ability to talk with others and have a better idea of putting yourself in somebody else's shoes helps carry me through my life. And going into university, I had a lot more of those soft skills, the street knowledge, that made me a lot more confident to leave home, go a little bit further distance from my parents, and travel the world. I love to travel. I've gone to Brazil and things of my own, and being able to not just go to a resort but really engage with the culture and experience it that way is important to me.
I wondered about travel and the experiences you had through CISV. What places in the world have you seen, and maybe which one stands out most?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to travel to Europe and Central South America. I really enjoy Central South America. My sisters were able to both go to Asia and Singapore and Japan. This summer, CISV has the opportunity to send to Norway, Brazil, Portugal, and then a really awesome camp opportunity in Ottawa, where you get to show off the Canadian culture and be the ones welcoming everyone from around the world.
How can somebody, if they're interested, get involved with CISV locally?
Yeah, we're always looking for additional volunteers and families that want to join us to grow our chapter. So you can take a peek at the CISVWaterloo.org website. You'll get all the information there. Or feel free to reach out to info@CISVWaterloo.org. And if you're not looking to kind of volunteer, get involved, but still want to donate a little bit, there is a donation tab. Thinking about Giving Tuesday next week, where there's some of those corporate donors who are looking to get some tax write-offs. We happily take those as a registered charity, and we can support you on the way. That way, if you're looking to be recognized, we have lots of opportunities.
Obviously, this is a global organization, building global friendship. The tagline right there on the website. Do you know offhand, Mitch, how long the Waterloo chapter has been around?
CISV Waterloo has been around since 1957. CISV itself is entering its 75th anniversary year next year, having started in 1951. All of this kind of came post-COVID, where the founder was theorizing that if you had friends on the opposite side of the world, you'd be less likely to go to war with somebody over there because you can put yourself in their shoes.
How do you balance a work life and being a leader trainer with CISV today?
Yeah, you got to be a little bit crazy. It does kind of take over your life a little bit. But the community is just so open and welcoming that it kind of becomes the place you want to be when you're not at work. You laugh all the time. You just feel super supported and connected. And then the networking that comes about with it really dictates your life. Many CISVers choose their career paths based on what they've learned in CISV, going on to be international politics or international law or teachers, nursing staff. Just because I want to give back to the community.
Got to be a little bit crazy. That runs in the family, though, right,
Absolutely,
Mitch? Yeah, of course it does. I hope that anybody listening takes away what CISV can obviously do for a young person, because you speak very well of not just the organization, but generally to spread this message. It's really impressive stuff. Thanks for joining us today on the show.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you for all that you do for the community and giving opportunities to our small chapters, getting our voices out there.
I was glad to learn more about it, and I'm glad we could do this. Thanks, Mitch. Mitch Lacey joining us, leader trainer with CISV Waterloo. I'll point you to the website where I first learned about it after getting that email, CISVWaterloo.org. Check it out. Maybe get involved, make a donation, as they're a registered charity, and more young people will grow up into young adults like Mitch here on the show this morning. It's the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. He is remembered as a devoted and powerful champion of Canadian arts and culture. And you know me, I'm a big fan of and supporter of arts and culture in this community and beyond. He was the first arts officer of the Canada Council dating back to the mid-1960s. And eventually he would become the Deputy Minister of Culture for the province of Ontario, that in the late 1980s. His name, David Silcox, and a biography about him has just been written by Nancy Silcox, who joins the show this morning. Nancy, good morning.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm actually just working on another book, but I'm just more than glad to pause that and talk to you about David.
Absolutely. Keep in touch the name of the book. What inspired you to put pen to paper or finger to keyboard, I suppose, and write this book?
Right. Well, David, who passed away 2 years ago in February, was my brother-in-law. I am married to his youngest brother. They were 12 years apart. And David had sunk fairly deeply into dementia. I had spoken to my sister-in-law, Linda Intashi, about whether he had written his notes, whether he had chronicled his life. And she said, although there were many of his documents in the archives, no, they had been scribbled. And knowing what a life he had led, I said, well, that shouldn't be, that can't be. And I am an experienced biographer. I've written 13 biographies before David's. And I said, I will do it. And I did. I began 2 years ago, January. And I think that what David's role was in Canadian arts needs to be shared and honored. And on top of that, it's a really fun book to read.
All right. So I hit some of the highlights with Arts Officer of the Canada Council, Deputy Minister of Culture here in Ontario. But what was it that led David to those roles? What made him so prominent in our arts community?
Well, I guess he was, the first word that comes to my mind is gleaner. And the title of the book says it all. He had an amazing ability to meet people and like people and communicate very well with people, and people liked him. He was obviously very ambitious as well. Art was his love, his vocation, and his Canada Council time was extremely important. It was a long time ago, but David and a group of fellow bureaucrats traveled back and forth across the country, giving money away to artists and to art galleries. And there was money back then. And he is responsible for money coming into the Kitchener Gallery, the Waterloo Gallery. In this area, there was money to be spent there, and many, many artists, both local and national, achieved their successes through David. That was very, very important as well. I think what many people will also be quite impressed about what David's abilities led to. He was an excellent writer as well, not just a bureaucrat, and he was an excellent writer. And he is responsible for books on Tom Thomson, that beautiful book of a number of years ago, Tom Thomson, The Silence in the Storm, and books about David Milne as well are still Canadian art bestsellers. So he was very, very well known across Canada, both for the bureaucratic work that he did in helping arts across Canada, but his writing as well.
Well, speaking of Tom Thompson,
Yeah.
Nancy, David was responsible, at least in part, as part of a team that brought some Canadian art back home, if you will, including Group of Seven pieces.
Yeah.
How did he do that?
Such a story. David was at the time, this was near the end of his working career, was the president of Sotheby's Canada. And it was his job to find art so that Sotheby's could sell it to people who wanted it. And one day, apparently, a call came in from Vermont in the United States from a lawyer saying they had some art from a client who had just passed, and the notes that they had gotten was, this art needs to go to Sotheby's in Toronto. And David, who was a quick study, got in a van with one of his coworkers, and they blasted down to Vermont. And the art was in an old shack. It was apparently in terrible shape, but when they were let into the house, there was art absolutely everywhere. It had been of a former Canadian who had collected art but then moved to Vermont. And he passed away, and his will said he wanted the art returned to Canada. So David bought the art on behalf of Sotheby's and brought hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of art back, and it was sold. One of Tom Thompson's key pieces, called Algonquin Park, was one of them. But there was also art from other members of the Group of Seven, and Emily Carr, and the Beaver Hall Group, and that story was covered very well by television and radio, and it was just a cool story. David loved to tell the story as well too, and I'm thrilled that I get to remember that story as well in the book.
You shared with me, Nancy, a tease that I would describe as irresistible. So I'm taking the bait here, Nancy.
You should.
Pierre, the canoe partner. Who was he?
Well, David was a former Boy Scout, and he grew up actually in Northern Ontario. He was a Queen Scout, and he was invited, he and other Queen Scouts at the time, to Queen Elizabeth's coronation in 1953. So he'd learned the art of canoeing. He was an outdoors type as well, too. And as he moved more into bureaucracy, he was the Assistant Deputy Minister of Culture in Ottawa under Pierre Trudeau, and then later under Mulroney. He became part of a group of adventurers that included Pierre Trudeau, who would travel every summer way up to the north in the Northwest Territories, northern Quebec, and they would take at least 3 weeks to travel down these rivers. And Pierre Trudeau was an excellent canoeist. Everyone on the trip had a job. There were about 8 of them that would travel down canoes. And our former Prime Minister was the dishwasher. And that was his job. That after they had gourmet meals, which David prepared, David was the cook, but Pierre was the dishwasher. And apparently no one could wash dishes from around the campfire like Pierre Trudeau. A number of stories about that other side of Trudeau in the book. And speaking of stories, I think it's important to know that it was, of course, it was disappointing that I wasn't able to discuss his life with David while he was living, of course. But what was good about it, Mike, was that I had to rely on the voices of other people. So David's book is a collection of wonderful stories from people like Margaret Atwood, who went to University of Toronto with him, from the former Adrienne Clarkson, who told of David appearing at her door one day with a lobster for lunch, only the lobster was on a leash. From Bob Ray, who I think has just finished his 5 years as Canada's deputy to the United Nations. Bob Ray actually fired David because David had a reputation of being a big spender for the arts. But David was appreciated by Bob Ray, and he very gladly took part in the book. Arts people as well. Another very cool story is when David was a young man and moving into the arts, he decided that he was going to attend the Courtauld Institute of Art in London, England. And it was not easy for him to get into that distinguished institution, but his supervisor was Sir Anthony Blunt. And I don't know whether any of your listeners remember one of the early episodes of The Crown. I think maybe the third episode, that Sir Anthony Blunt was Queen Elizabeth's art gallery curator.
All right, Nancy, I'm so sorry, but I'm beyond my time.
Okay.
So we'll leave that story for the book. Real quick, where can people keep in touch?
They can get it at Chapters, Indigo, Amazon. They are also able to buy it locally at Wordsworth Books. There will be a book launch at Waterloo Public Library on January the 12th.
Look forward to it all. Nancy, thank you so much for this.
You're welcome.
Nancy Silcox writes, keep in touch, the serendipitous life of Canadian arts icon, David Silcox. Look for it in bookstores. This is the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV.
Take out the papers and the trash, or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night.
Don't talk back.
Let me start this Talkback Hour. Open lines for your phone calls. Whatever's on your mind, pick up that phone. Don't be shy. Let's have a conversation. We could even have an argument if you want to. Somebody called in yesterday, was looking for an argument. They found one because, me, I'm always willing. But let me start today, if I can. At least when I screw up spectacularly, right? Oh, my goodness. First of all, I had to blatantly and rudely interrupt my last guest just before the news update, Nancy Silcox, who was here telling us about the biography she's written about her late brother-in-law, our former Deputy Minister of Culture in Ontario, David Silcox. I had to, because you see, the clock rules my life, and I was already late to get to news. So not only did I have to rudely interrupt Nancy, but then the news gets a certain amount of time, and it ends at the same time. So if it's late starting, then the news person gets ripped off some of their time, which means you get ripped off hearing the news from the news center, and it's all my fault. It's all my fault. Nancy, I'm so sorry for interrupting you. Hutch, my buddy Matt Hutchison in the news center. I already did. I went down the hall. I apologized right away. Man, did I mess the timing up on that one. I'm very sorry for that. Quick reminder, because it was so quick before that news update. You can keep in touch, the serendipitous life of Canadian arts icon David Silcox at Wordsworth Books in Uptown Waterloo. Nancy spun several great yarns that you'll find in the book. It's very interesting stuff about our former Deputy Minister of Culture here in Ontario. Keep in touch. The Serendipitous Life of Canadian Arts Icon David Silcox. Go see our friends at Wordsworth Books in Uptown Waterloo. Or, since Nancy hails from the beautiful small town of New Hamburg, maybe you can just go down Peel Street and go, "Hey, Nancy! Nancy! Can I get you, Nancy, can I get your book?" I mean, it's New Hamburg. Just go down Peel and shout for a little bit. I'm sure eventually Nancy will hear you. But I'm very sorry for my absolutely abominable clock management before the news update. Talkback is your chance to do that very thing. Just talk back at us. Give me the feedback on how bad I was at managing the clock before noon, or reflect on the events of the day. I'm still thinking on the first story we shared, our conversation with Cabanovo in Waterloo, which is boldly pledging 1 million homes in 10 years. The clock hasn't started ticking yet. They're still working on proof of concept, but the plan, the very ambitious plan, is for 1 million homes in 10 years. Yes, these are modular homes that would be factory built, but you put them up in a day and people are moving in 2 weeks later. These would be multi-unit dwellings. So you take where a single family home sits today, that home disappears, and a fourplex prefab goes up in its place. I think one of the biggest barriers to accomplishing this goal, 1 million homes in 10 years, will be the various regulations that you're going to find in anywhere Canada, because they're different in Kitchener and Waterloo and Cambridge and Guelph and Baden and Elmira and you name it. And that's just around here. Just think of trying to do that across the country. So many different sets of rules that you're going to run into. And then Steve, who called about it earlier, also made a great point, because in order to scale this to the level it needs to be scaled, we're talking about 8 automotive production facility-sized factories, and you'll need them across the country. If you were to get the green light tomorrow to build one of those 8 needed factories, how long do you think it would take before you would actually have the factory, the production line ready? Years, right? So there would be that barrier to it too. I love the ambition. I love the idea. It was a very interesting story. I think they've got some flies in the ointment as they embark on this ambitious journey. 1 million homes in 10 years. So maybe you've got some thoughts on that. We talked about the urgent need for online safety legislation here in Canada. Children First Canada joined us to talk about the need for Canada to follow suit. Other parts of the world have introduced online safety legislation. It's all about protecting kids from these various harms. And I'm here for it, because I used to think this was a responsibility that fell just onto parents. And I don't know how a parent or 2 parents, heck, you could have 4 parents, can control all of this. There is tremendous, I think, responsibility that needs to be borne by the tech companies who create the algorithms, curate the content, etc. And there are no guardrails on any of this. I think legislation is not a bad idea. And how about our buddy Uncle Doug calling out a protester at Queen's Park yesterday, telling him to go get a job, and doubling down on those comments today? He's a paid protester. I remember these guys when I was a counselor in Toronto. Listen, in a world where you can be an influencer, I guess your job really can be protester. Well, how do I get a job? I kind of got a job like that, don't I? I can protest whatever the heck I want while I'm sitting here in this chair. And you can as well, every day at this time, noon until 1, open phone lines for you to protest, praise, criticize, argue, throw flowers. It's totally up to you. 519-570-2545, star 570, and 1-800-570-5715. Francis, good afternoon. You're on Talkback.
Good afternoon. Well, I wasn't going to talk about the housing business. They better get a whole bunch of trainees out there, get them through school out there. We have all the trades available. But I want to be a promotioner.
Okay.
There is the largest Christmas light show in the area. It's called God's Country, Formosa, Ontario. And it runs from December the 4th to the 7th from 5 to 9 p.m., and it only costs a cash donation. And like I say, it takes a village to bring up people, and you won't get a better place than Formosa. God bless.
God bless, Francis. Thank you. I love it up in Formosa, not just because they made beer up there, okay? But there you go, December 4th through the 7th, the beautiful Christmas light display in God's country itself, Formosa. And just make a donation when you get there. Rosie, the pandemic pup, and I took a walk last night with intent after dinner. We got our lights done on the weekend. I wanted to, you know how it is. It's like when you finish mowing the lawn. You want to look at how good the lawn looks when you're done, right? I wanted to see what the house looked like, all lit up. I missed it on Sunday. By the time I got home from Oshawa and that game with the Kitchener Rangers, the lights were off. So I didn't get to see them. So last night, I'm going to check this out from the street view, and then walked around the neighborhood to see what other neighbors were doing and how nice the neighborhood looked. I like it when the lights come on. So there you go. Formosa, December 4th through the 7th. Francis, the promoter, on Talkback today. Let's find out what's on Grant's mind. Good afternoon, Grant.
Yeah, good afternoon. Well, my brother went in for you asked what's on my mind, so my brother went in for a biopsy. And I hope whatever they've done throughout the last several weeks will bring him peace of what's going on, because he's got this huge mass that's connected from one hip to the next hip. It's bulging out. You touch it, it's rock hard. So that is a hernia, and inside the hernia is the mass. And also they found with a CT scan were those three things and a lump on his lung. So I'm hoping that this thing isn't cancerous. That's what my dad had several years ago. And my brother also 3 years ago had bowel cancer. For weeks, he wasn't able to expel any gas. And 3 years ago, he had repetitively stomach pains, and the last time it lasted not 38 hours. So I'm hoping, like I said, I'm hoping they can resolve this issue. And that's it, Mike.
Thanks, Grant. I appreciate you sharing that, because that's obviously some personal stuff that's going on in the family. And I'm glad to hear that your brother is getting the care. The CT scan, other testing has been done to get you to this point where he's now having the biopsy. So that suggests to me that he's in the process of getting care, but I can certainly understand the concern here. And you know what that reminds me of? And I'm not breaking any new ground here, but it's a good reminder, I think, every once in a while. When you meet somebody on any given day, maybe at the bus stop, maybe while walking your dog, maybe at work, you don't know what shoes they're walking in that day. This is probably not the best day for Grant. So if you were to run into Grant or somebody like him not having their best day because they're worried about their brother and thinking about their father and all these different things, well, it's just a good reminder for us to meet those people with as much grace as we possibly can, depending on where we're at in our day. So, Grant, I hope things work out. You get some positive news back. Next, we'll go to Mark here on Talkback. Good afternoon, Mark.
Afternoon, Farley. How are you doing?
Hey, buddy. I'm great today. Thank you. How are you?
Not too shabby.
Good.
Listen, I was listening to your show this morning, and thanks for sharing that information about Fred's Fritters.
Oh, my gosh. Fred's Fritters.
I'm going on either Saturday or Sunday, and I'm going to pick up a box or two, and I'm going to tell them Farwell sent me from 570.
Okay. Now, Mark, don't let me down this time, because there's been times before where you're like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and you didn't always follow through. So you got to follow through on this one.
Farzy, I'm not turning down those apple fritters.
Attaboy, you're a smart man. That's a good Waterloo County boy right there.
And thanks, Farzy, for sharing that info.
You're very welcome, my friend. That's what we're here to do. We're going to provide information, hopefully a little bit of entertainment along the way, and we're going to give you the opportunity every ding-dang day to share your thoughts on the news of the day, or to promote the thing that you want to promote, like Francis did before with the light show, the Christmas light show in Formosa. This is the most interactive radio program anywhere in this region. And if you missed earlier what Mark was just talking about, I'll remind you. Actually, there's two. I won't do one without the other. Mark was talking about the Christmas market that starts 4 o'clock Friday afternoon at Concordia Club in Kitchener. It's the 5th annual Weihnachtmarkt. Before that, well, that's Friday at 4, and then it runs right through the weekend. Saturday, all day, Sunday, starting at 10, going till 4, if I've got that right. I'm going to pull that up just to be sure. But Friday at 4, it starts at Concordia Club. On Saturday morning, Lincoln Road Chapel in Waterloo is having a Christmas market as well. That starts at 10, goes till 2. It's in support of Ray of Hope. So you can get your market fill on Saturday, okay? Go to the Lincoln Road Chapel Market. They're trying to raise $6,000 for Ray of Hope. And then check out Weihnachtmarkt at Concordia Club in Kitchener. Friday from 4 until 8, Saturday from 10 until 8, and Sunday from 10 until 4. The 5th annual Weihnachtmarkt. And what Mark was just talking about, our good buddy Fred Troutrim, a.k.a. Fritter Fred, joined the show this morning to talk about it. Fred and his brother Peter always have their fritter truck outside at Concordia Club when the market's happening. Get yourself some fritters because you know you're going to want to. You can't walk past that smell and not stop. And Fred told us this morning that anybody who goes up to the window of that truck to get their fritters and says they heard about it on this show, you mentioned the Farwell show, you mentioned 570 News Radio, you're getting a little bonus fritter or two in your box. So, Mark, I'm glad you're doing that. And let's see, here's the thing. Selfishly, we can impress the hell out of Fred by showing up in great numbers to say, listen, I heard about it on the Farwell show. Give me my free fritters. It's a perfect idea. I love it. And this is your Talkback Hour. Continuing on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. Just quickly back to those markets that are happening on the weekend here in the region. Lincoln Road Chapel in Waterloo, Saturday from 10 until 2. More than 24 vendors and some sweet treats for you as they raise money for Ray of Hope, hoping to raise $6,000 at their market. Definitely worth checking out. Stained glass, pottery, you name it. Lincoln Road Chapel, Saturday, 10 until 2 on Lincoln Road in Waterloo, across from Moses Springer. At the Concordia Club, starting on Friday at 4 and running right through the day, Saturday and Sunday as well, the 5th annual Weihnachtmarkt, which is also a Christmas-themed. It's got a great German feel to it, obviously, because it's inside the Concordia Club itself. Again, more than 24 vendors, some glühwein, you name it, and Fritter Fred and his brother Peter outside in the fritter truck. You won't be able to resist it. How can you when you walk by? And they have said anybody that goes up to their window will get extra fritters if they mention that they heard about the market on this show. So that would make me feel good if you impressed them in great number by showing up looking for some free fritters, and you'll be getting to go to the market as well. Fred told us when we were talking about the market earlier today that the Boy Scouts, who traditionally have set up shop to sell Christmas trees at the Home Hardware on Victoria Street in Kitchener, are now using the Concordia Club's parking lot and selling their Christmas trees from there. They've got several hundred trees, so if your tradition is to get the tree from the Scouts, you'll find the Scouts at Concordia Club on Ottawa Street this season. Again, they used to be, as you probably know, because they were there forever, the Home Hardware on Victoria Street, which is now closed. That's where the new Urban Good Funeral Home is going to be going. But speaking of Home Hardware, good little local corporate partner, local employer, national headquarters there in good old Jakobstädel, St. Jacobs. A shout out to our friends at Elmira Home Hardware, and to those of you who made me aware of this last night. It is now on our Facebook page as well, facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show. And Elmira Home Hardware shared this picture for a pop quiz at the porch. Give delivery drivers a fun little challenge with our quiz front doormat, because holiday deliveries deserve a bit of humor too. And the picture for the quiz front doormat shows one of the Elmira Home Hardware employees holding up the mat that says deliveries. And beneath that it says, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? An arrow to yes, an arrow to no. So presumably the delivery person would leave your package on the mat on the answer, yes or no, whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Good job by you, Elmira Home Hardware. Again, you can see this on our Facebook page as well, facebook.com/The Mike Farwell Show. This is what I would do. If I had a front door mat like that and the delivery person followed the rules and left the package on their answer, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Any packages I got left on the answer yes, I would return to sender. So be very careful, delivery people. If I end up with a mat like this on my front porch and you leave a package on the wrong answer, I will send that package back so fast. And then the poor person who sent it would be like, Farwell, what gives? Well, I'll tell you what gives. The delivery person does not understand that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie. Good job, though, by Elmira Home Hardware. As we continue our job of talking back at one another, it's the Talkback Hour where phone lines are open for you here on the Mike Farwell Show. This is 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. If I were to ask you what your number one price pressure or financial pressure is, what would your answer to that question be? Your number one financial pressure. This on the same day we learned that Canadian debt load, consumer debt load, this includes our mortgages, mind you, but still, $2.6 trillion this year. I mean, low cost of borrowing, so more of us borrowed, but we're talking to the tune of $2.6 trillion of debt here in Canada, which kind of puts the federal government to shame. I didn't think anybody could outspend the federal government, but here we are. Average credit card debt for Canadians this year, over $4,600. That makes me shiver a little bit because I'm very debt averse. Let's put it that way. Even the mortgage, I get, why am I still paying this mortgage? Oh, look at the interest rate on those mortgages. It just keeps adding up and adding up. So $2.6 trillion in consumer debt in this country. What would be your number one financial pressure? According to 4 out of 5 of us, it's the price at the grocery store. That is the one that you worry about the most, or probably you feel the most acutely. And that has changed how we shop, cook, and eat. And I wonder if you've made any of those changes given the cost of groceries these days. I mentioned earlier in the show that my beloved came home from the grocery store on the weekend with 3 bags. Maybe there was a 4th. I could be mistaken, but I think there were only 3. That was more than $260 worth of stuff in those 3 bags, and she proceeded to pull out, a package of chicken breast, and this is how much you get. This is how much chicken you get for this much money now, and this, that, and the other thing. I realize that we are in a fortunate position with both of us working full time, doing okay, but that's a lot for 2 little people plus a dog in one trip to the grocery store. And there were some of the bigger ticket, non-perishable items in there, like the laundry soap and some other things. But either way, that's a fair bit of money just dropped at the grocery store on a Sunday morning. I don't know if you've made any changes to habits based on that, but 4 out of 5 of us say the number one financial concern right now is how much it's costing us at the grocery store. And we even commented in having that conversation at home that this is why people who have less financial flexibility have poorer health outcomes, because what kind of food are you getting if you're not able to drop $267 on any given week at the grocery store? It's not easy out there. It's just, it's a vicious cycle is really what it comes down to, isn't it? We'll go back to the phones here on Talkback and our good friend Preston Paul, Farwell's Force member number 45 with us. Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'm here to report that things aren't looking good out there for the families. I feel so sorry for young families that got to deal with just not food, but the rent, gas, vehicles. I'm just so glad that I'm at the end of this race and not at the beginning.
You know what, Paul? The number of times I have said that, I look at younger people, here at the radio station, I try to put myself in their shoes from all those years ago. And there were pressures on us too, but it does seem different today, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yes, sir.
It's just tenfold. But I really enjoyed yesterday, the guys bugging you about that team that shall not be named.
That's right. They're back to that, Paul. It was a one-day exemption. That's it.
It was pretty fun, and I was I was so looking forward to winning that early bird on Friday. I would have loved to spend a game in the booth with you and Josh.
Oh, well, I'm glad you got tickets anyway, because you're helping out Family and Children's Services.
Yeah, that's one good thing.
Good man.
You stay dry. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Paul. Great to hear from you. Preston Paul, Farwell's Force member number 45. Where can I pick up on that? Let's start with yesterday. I just had to come clean. I had to allow you the opportunity. It wouldn't have been right if I hadn't allowed the opportunity. If you've listened to this show for more than a minute, you probably know I'm a massive Leafs fan. Still am. I'm not giving up on them by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm such a massive Leafs fan that I really don't like that other team that is the arch rival of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I like them so little that I won't even allow for their team name to be uttered on this show. I hang up the phone the second somebody tries to say, I don't let them do it. It is the team that shall not be named. But after that team whooped the ever-loving whoopee out of my team on the weekend, I'm like, you know what? For one day, I'm lifting the rule. The ban doesn't exist. I'm not hanging up on you. And a few of you took full advantage of saying that team's name on the air. I hope you enjoyed your one day, because we're back, baby. I don't give up on my Leafs, but I had to be honest with you. You won big. Who am I to say? So you got your one day. Now we're back to the team that shall not be named. Paul was hoping to win the early bird prize in our 570 News Radio Tree of Hope 50-50 raffle. So let me just use this as an opportunity to first congratulate Lisa Blunden, who won the early bird prize, the Kitchener Rangers VIP experience, which is a meet and greet with a Rangers player, a stick signed by the entire team, and a seat in the broadcast booth with me and Josh Piercy for an upcoming game. Lisa Blunden won that in the early bird draw last Friday. If you missed out on it like Paul did, that's okay. First of all, those tickets you already bought are still in there for the big jackpot, and the jackpot is worth a guaranteed $50,000. Come on with your coming on, right? That's awesome amount of money. And if you don't have a ticket yet, you can get in right now and get in on the next early bird prize, which is a couple of tickets to see the Jonas Brothers in Hamilton in December and $1,000 cash money. There you go. And just like Lisa, you can win the early bird prize, and you're still in the draw for the jackpot, which we'll be drawing in several weeks from now. So early bird incentive, Jonas Brothers tickets for December the 14th in Hamilton, and $1,000 cash. And you're still in for the draw, which is guaranteed $50,000, but it's going to go higher than that. Tickets start at just $10. And when you buy them, you are helping Family and Children's Services of Waterloo Region. Perfect time of year to be doing something like that. So I encourage you, buy a ticket at FACS5050.ca. FACS5050.com. F for family, A for and, C for children's, S for services. FACS5050.com. Starts as little as $10. Get a ticket right now, and you're in for the early bird draw, which we're drawing this Friday morning at 8 o'clock. 2 tickets to see the Jonas Brothers, $1,000 in cash, and a $50,000 minimum prize in that 50-50 raffle. I'm sure that you could find a way to use that money right now. And so can Family and Children's Services of Waterloo Region. So thanks for supporting. Play along, have some fun, and help out Family and Children's Services. Back to the phones here on Talkback. We've got Dave in Cambridge, Farwell's Force member number 47. Good afternoon, Dave.
Good afternoon, Mike. I'd like to make 2 points on the massive debt that we're carrying.
$2.6 trillion, David.
Right. 2 points. Number one, the federal government keeps adding interest upon interest on the massive debt. And number two is regular Joe Blow citizen who every day, every week, every month, every year buys on credit. When they use their credit card, they're buying on credit on wants rather than needs. And I wish the federal government as a start would never do it. They would never do it. But remember that huge, humongous debt clock that used to be erected by, I think it was by the conservative government at one time. They should have it planted in front of Parliament Hill, showing the interest wheel spinning on the massive debt. Have a great day, Mike. Go Leafs, go.
Thanks, Dave. I love that last point. Go Leafs, go. I think the Canadian Taxpayers Federation still does something similar to that debt clock, but much like the idea of carrying $4,600 in credit card balances gives me a shiver, that debt clock makes me shiver as well. Jesse is next on Talkback, Farwell's Force member number 134. Jesse, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike. I finally remembered my number, first off. So talking about food budgets and stuff, it's definitely an issue for me. I have a very severe dietary restriction with celiac disease, so it's even more expensive to get groceries because the second you add on a gluten-free or organic label or something, it doubles the price. But talking about budgets entirely, I know where Cambridge can save $320,000 by getting rid of their council, since the mayor is deciding to strong mayor everything.
Isn't that wild what's going on in Cambridge, eh?
Yep.
Jesse, appreciate the call, and I totally understand and I empathize with that gluten-free need. It's not a want, and then how much more it costs you in the grocery store. So this is the challenge. I said earlier, I mean, we're not looking for any dietary restrictions, but if you want to eat, reasonably good foods, produce, fruits, veggies, lean cuts of meat, etc., you're paying. And so when you try to reduce your overall food budget, you're making dramatically different choices. In Jessie's case, it would impact her overall health and well-being because obviously your celiac disease would impact you and make you uncomfortable if you're eating the wrong foods. And just for Joe and Jane public, if you will, you're getting far more processed foods, far less nutrient-dense foods because those are the less expensive ones, right? So there are ripple effects to all of this. And when it comes to Cambridge and its budget, they had another, I don't know what was going on at that meeting last night. It seems as though there's almost a competition in Cambridge right now between which side of the horseshoe is less experienced, the councillors or the staff. And they were at it again last night. And one councillor in particular, Mike Devine, said he was disgusted by what had happened because reports about the budget were showing up at the meeting So counselors didn't have a chance to review any of it and prepare thoughts and or questions about it before they came to the meeting, which any good counselor worth their salt is doing. They get their information days in advance. They read it over. They prepare for the meeting. You get stuff as you sit down at the meeting. That's not cool. We'll get into all of this in greater detail tomorrow on the show, because tomorrow's Wednesday, and Wednesday mornings at 11:30, Rob Deutschman, who was a former regional councillor and former mayor of North Dumfries, joins us for some political R&D, and he'll explain all of it. But this is not a good dynamic right now from where I'm sitting in Cambridge. Jesse says, save $320,000 and just move them all out of there. It's Talkback on the Mike Farwell Show, 570 News Radio and Rogers TV. We had back-to-back calls earlier from official members of Farwell's force. Preston Paul, number 45, Dave, number 47, and then Jesse, number 134, who said, I finally remembered my number. And it checks out because I keep the official list here in the studio with me. And you might be wondering, what is this Farwell's Force membership and how do I get one? Well, first of all, Farwell's Force is a force for good, a force for change, and a force to be reckoned with. That is who we are and what we represent on this show. If you would like to join the club, you are more than welcome. However, there is one requirement, and that one requirement is 15 minutes of your time. And you have to give us that 15 minutes every day. So this is a community that comes together for conversation every day here on the show. We weigh in on the issues of the day. We put forward solutions to the problems in our community every ding-dang day. And we have conversations about how to make things better and things that we wish were better. But that's what Farwell's Force is all about. A force for good, a force for change, a force to be reckoned with. And we had a call earlier today from Bob, who said he wants to be number 680 because somehow he thought being number 680 would be in the middle of the ultimate list. I don't know that we're getting to 1,360, but I'll tell you this much. We have filled in every single number up to 240, and we've got a few others in there. I want a 4-digit number, and then Bob at number 680. But we are pushing 245 members strong. It started out just as a lark, but you have really come through as the force that you are. So if you'd like to be an official member, get your name on this list and have a number assigned to you. All you have to do is give us 15 minutes every day of listening, interacting if you want to. You don't have to call or email, but you certainly can. And we'll add you to the official list of Farwell's Force members. Drop me an email, mike@570news.com, or be like Bob earlier today. Just called in to talk about an issue and said, hey, I want a number. And then he chose his own number. That's fine. I ain't fussy. I just want you to be a force for good in this world. Rudy is next on Talkback. Good afternoon, Rudy.
Yeah, force number 234 I am.
Yes, sir, you are. 234 Farwell's Force membership number.
Yeah, I got in the car always at 1:45. Anyway, on Saturday, I was in the Cambridge Center Mall, and they have an e-bike store in there.
I know they do.
They have those little cars you were talking about.
I know they do.
$8,000 those things cost.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Rudy. You buy it. I don't know how good the battery is or how long it lasts, but you're not putting insurance in it. You're not putting gas in it. And you're driving it around. I've seen people literally on Weber and Victoria Streets driving those things. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. It's crazy. I think they should have insurance on them. They should be licensed. And they got the one there that looks like a cafe racer type motorcycle, like a ninja style. And that thing does 130 clicks.
Insane. Insane. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Rudy, appreciate the call. I'm with you. Halton Hills just this week talked about municipal legislation to regulate all of these vehicles. If it's powered by a battery, it's a vehicle. I want them licensed. I want them insured. I get the appeal of essentially cheap transportation, but come on. And now that they're beyond just being on the trails, being a nuisance there, they're out on the roads. This is just a recipe for absolute disaster. Let's follow the lead of Halton Hills and get real serious about this stuff. Afif, you're on Talkback. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, Mike. Number 33 here.
Farwell's Force member number 33. Good day.
Good day. Now, you said we can't say the name, but can we say the...
No. It's done. You had your day yesterday. No.
Oh, so say you doesn't count it either.
Well, if you went to visit Montreal, that's fine, but don't associate it with the team.
I get it. Okay, perfect. Just wanted to say, go Leafs go and have suck.
Okay. I've seen a license plate around town that says that, actually. Habs suck. I don't know whose it is, but I like it. George, good afternoon. You're on Talkback. 00 George, Farwell's Force member number 00.
Yes, Mike. Hi, how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Mike, were you listening to the Rob Snow show yesterday between 2 and 3?
I was listening to most of it, so what did I miss? What do you...
The guy from Kitchener who slammed you on the radio?
Oh, I totally missed that. That's too bad.
Yeah, I don't know what his name was. He was from Kitchener, and he was saying every day, which I don't think is true, every day you're complaining about how Trump did this and how Trump did that and how you're blaming everything on Trump. I listen to Mike most of the days, and he doesn't start his day like that or even talk that much about Trump.
Well, George, you clearly listen, and whomever that was, I'm sorry I missed getting slammed on another show. But hey, you do a job like this, you take the lumps when they come. But George is right. I can't remember the last time I even mentioned the president's name. I don't give a tinker's... Well, I kind of give a tinker's darn about him. But anyway, you can have whatever opinion you want. That's what this show is all about. And we're done for today. But I'll come back tomorrow morning at 9, and I hope you will too. My name's Mike Farwell. You are a force for good. Bye for now.